Champions, welcome back to the Paladins Invitational here at Hi-Rez Expo of 2017, presented to you by Twitch Prime. My name is Vox, back up for a second set in a row, joined once again in day 2 for the Group B stage by Alan, I Hold Shift, Donna Frio. It's good to be back.
It's really good to be back. Again, it's just one of those things that I feel like I watch you guys have so much fun up here for so long, and I'm sitting here like, I just want to be up there.
You know what else you could be watching, however? If you're watching on twitch.tv/Paladins Game right now, we have Twitch linking enabled for you. All you have to do to get a chance at winning some free loot drops just for watching the stream is visit hirezstudios.com/link to link up your twitch.tv and Hi-Rez accounts. And then you just win drops just by watching the show.
Yeah, I didn't get that while I was sitting and watching you guys here because I didn't have my Twitch open. I wish I would have. I actually should have thought about that. I could have had it open, could have gone 2 for 1. But on top of that, what I can do, what you can do right now is you can go in game and you can actually get the loot pack for HRX 2017, the Expo pack that has a number of different things, mostly specifically for Fernando, Victor, the Ying commemorative skin, and it also comes with some sprays and the poses, and I still got to get that trophy pose. I need that.
We saw the sprays come out multiple times in Abyss games earlier actually today. As soon as they got a double kill, the spray goes down. They're prepared, but for the time being, we mentioned Abyss. They've already played a couple of times today, so let's take a look at the schedule from the games earlier today and see what the set scores are so far.
Yep, and this has been really big because, you know, going into this whole invitational, there were all these question marks. You guys had already kind of put out the story for Abyss. They had really an easy run through Oceanic. They've only lost a single map in all of their competitive Paladins play, which is really impressive. They're still undefeated in competitive Paladins play. And Eager was the team that we were looking at as far as how strong really is the Oceanic Aussie boys. And they showed up very, very strong and really flexed on them the whole way through.
Continuing to face Nocturns Gaming, Abyss took another 3-0 lead. And then Burrito versus Nocturns Gaming took a 3-0 victory, but notably Nocturns Gaming, the team from Latin America, did actually give Burrito a really hard time on certain capture points, taking some points off Burrito, which honestly is relatively unheard of up to the District 69 levels of competition, at least in online play.
Yeah, and the really interesting thing about it is you mentioned they got some points off of it. These aren't just defense points. They were actually winning team fights and capturing the neutral center and getting the payload pretty pushed a number of different times. So it's going to be interesting to see what Nocturns is able to do, you know, the Latin American salsa-based team, you know, all the spiciness as they come up against Eager, who we've kind of looked at their draft as being a little lackluster. This might be a good match, but the big premiere is the one we're about to hit right now with a lot riding on it. 1-0 is Burrito, 2-0 is Abyss. If Burrito falls here, it actually is beneficial for Eager because it gives them a shot to get back into a possible semifinal situation.
But it would guarantee Abyss the first place seed going into the semifinals. So Burrito versus Abyss, map draft available on your screens. Out of 7 available maps, 2 have been banned away. Burrito, first of all, take Timber Mill off the table.
Yeah, I like that just simply because, as we've seen and as Burrito saw as well earlier, Knessa seems to be a very big priority. At least it's a possibility. And Timber Mill is one of those maps where Knessa is very successful because she's able to post up and really not be threatened too much without committing a lot of resources to it. But on the flip side, Abyss picks a smart one by taking away Ice Mines.
Unsurprising, they don't seem to like this map. Frozen Guard is another matter, but Ice Mines with its long payload push, long travel time from spawn to objective, and close quarters brawling playstyle doesn't seem to fit what Abyss want to play. They want to play these long line of sight champions. They want to play damage over distance. And the first map coming up in this Burrito versus Abyss set then will be Frog Isle.
Yeah, Frog Isle is really interesting looking at how both of these teams prefer to play the game. They both have a very centralized, comprised team comp usually, how they approach points. And this is essentially a bowl is what it comes down to. There's a lot of high areas around the outside of the central capture point where Knessa could be successful. But the big thing is, what are the front lines able to do in those trenches right up front? We've seen Burrito be so patient, looking for that first blood, finding their opportunities. This is a much more central and close, more of a quick-paced map.
It certainly is, and whilst Burrito have played on Frog Isle many times before, we're yet to see Burrito actually pull out a Ruckus into the draft, who has been such a predominant pick throughout this tournament up until the most recent set between Burrito and Nocturns. I do feel like if you're going to start to pull that back out again on the bowl-shaped Frog Isle, then is when it will be most valuable.
Yeah, without a doubt. And as we get into draft here with the different champion select, the interesting thing about, you know, the meta we've seen over the last day and a half with this Ruckus plus Makoa with usually a Maldamba, that was actually what Burrito preferred throughout the EV's Winter Classic. In their finals, they used that 66% of the time. It was a really big showcase, and they go for the Makoa, possibly opening up that Ruckus pick.
So Abyss with their draft coming up. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you expect to see Grover?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. No, it's going to be Abyss, which pick up the Ruckus here, going with Ruckus and Fernando, double front line, locked in and secured will be Abyss's draft so far. So taking that away from Burrito, we know from previous experience that Bird has a very good Ruckus, and now that counter Ruckus play, which we saw coming through earlier with Burrito avoiding that champion entirely, might be utilized with Xiaolin and Eevee here.
Yeah, you mentioned a really good thing about Bird, and the other person we have to mention on the, you know, with what this allows is the possibility of Laizy being able to play a wide variety of characters, and that really opens up their ability to really go for these flex picks early on in Burrito's draft, as again, Xiaolin and Eevee bring a lot to the table from damage and mobility, respectively. The interesting thing that did not take away was the Maldamba, which we're seeing highlighted with as well the Cassie. Both of them are locked, so there is that trifecta up front with that great healing from Maldamba.
Two front lines of support. You mentioned damage and mobility, though, and there's no champion which encompasses that more in my mind than Cassie, the Hunter's daughter, selected by Abyss here. We've noted them doing very well with them recently, but potentially going to be counted out by Xiaolin and Victor with other long line of sight damage from Burrito as they rounded their draft, finishing up with also Ying for their support.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at Victor on this map simply because he can kind of play around corners like you would normally see in a traditional first-person shooter where you kind of play those corners of buildings or in between windows, and there's a lot of areas where Victor can go relatively unnoticed thanks to the elevation and the kind of the foliage that's around the map. But the big thing about Victor that I like the most is the fact that as Abyss gets centralized, you have to figure Ruckus, Fernando, Maldamba are all going to be on point. One grenade plus Grenadier 4 is going to keep that spawning up very quickly, which will allow a lot of really good burst damage on top of the auto that he has in his rifle.
And the setup potential between Ice Storm from Eevee and Victor's ultimate barrage is nothing to be sneezed at despite Eevee's Achu, but Androxus will round out the draft for Abyss, and I like this. We suspected we may see a Kinessa coming through, but with Burrito drafting so early and Eevee in their draft, sitting in third, not the first pick we used to see her out in online play at least, it does very much dissuade Abyss from picking a Kinessa or a low mobility champion, also like Tyra, unless they want to spend the entire game running Ring Around the Roses from the Winter Witch.
We're going to have to keep an eye on Androxus too, simply because there's an interesting dynamic for where Androxus will either be successful or unsuccessful, and that's can he get flanks and potential solo kills, or at least solo damage onto the backline of Xiaolin, the less mobile Victor, or possibly harassing the Ying to get that dimensional link off the board. That's a big cooldown for that mobility skill.
It certainly is, but I feel like they're going to struggle with this on Frog Isle because there are a lot of open spaces, and we'll see those open spaces in all their grandeur as we do load in to game number 1 between Burrito Esports and Abyss. Shift, please. Who are we watching?
For Burrito, wearing the blue trunks is going to be Spunkki on Ying, Laizy going to be playing Eevee, Bonkar on the Xiaolin, Bird playing Victor, and Thiel up front with the hooks on Makoa.
Of course, it will be for Abyss. Alston on Maldamba, Kronicx takes Ruckus, Joelz on Androxus, joshkent on Cassie, and Haydz as for the front line. Fernando, first blood already going through to joshkent as they take out Laizy. This looks good for Abyss.
Yeah, and actually the Androxus is kind of formulating himself as a frontline support, using reversal when possible to negate some damage and send it right back. A little taste of their own medicine, and Abyss looks really strong, actually getting the zone on the outside. 60% plus extra kills. The patience of Burrito has been really detrimental so far.
Yeah, they're not getting anywhere near the objective, and with Makoa being forced out round the edge of the map, and Joelz looking to clean up any kills which are started off by joshkent's Cassie. Wow, look at that 180 flick to deliver reversal damage. There's nobody from Burrito near the objective, completely uncontested. Abyss come out swinging.
Swinging and swinging for the fences, not scared at all. I looked at Abyss as they came on stage. They looked really calm, collected, ready to go in focused, and it's showing up. 1-0 so far, 2 minutes left until overtime, and the payload's already pushing Fox.
Oh, as well as the 1400 damage reversal coming out of Joelz, who is tracking Eevee as well. This guy's masterfully. She blinks back to joshkent's arms and gets sent straight back to base. But with bonkar picking up Joelz, this does provide the opportunity for Burrito to start to defend. Not if Ruckus gets on top of the payload and starts advancing, however, as your roving mobile death machine.
And I'm loving the dynamic between Fernando and Ruckus. You see Fernando getting his shield up and actually sprinting forward to create some distance where Ruckus can really go off and get that damage, and then coming back, then Maldamba heals up and they rinse, wash, and repeat. Makoa looking for possibly a hook off the map. We saw a couple others earlier, but nothing here.
That's a little bit too much damage for them to sit there and do that, though, because if they sit and wait for a hook off the map, they're going to get poked out and potentially thrown over the edge. You've got to remember that joshkent does have disengage available to them on Cassie, and as the payload advances, nobody from Burrito can contest. The frontliners are all dead. It's going to go completely through 2-0 in under 3 minutes. This is record time.
Vox, I have a chant I need to start with you.
Okay.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi.
Oi, oi, oi.
Oi.
Oh my
Oi.
goodness, 2-0 so far from the boys down under, and looking across their faces, it is just all just passion and energy right here.
You can see the wink coming out from the man with the mustache himself, joshkent, and the Hi-Rez Invitational logo spray up on the wall, repping the colors of this main event as we do get ready for the next capture point control. Cauterized and Haven is the name of the game in the item store, however.
Yeah, for both teams, really, is actually Haven 2 going for Alston and Kronicx, electing to try to get some of that direct damage out of the way. The big key as we look a little further down the road is the fact that Laizy is not going to be mitigated by anything, and he's going to be the key for Burrito to get back in this late game.
But Laizy is 0-3 right now. The playmaker, the wild card for this team, has to start making the plays. Grenade is massive. Laizy does clean up Maldamba. Bird drops down Hellfire with Barrage. Could this be the beginning of a comeback?
Oh, the Illusionary Rift spawned right on top of that, so trying to keep Burrito alive and pushing was spunkki before he fell, but still, Abyss above 60%, and again, where's the front line for Burrito?
Well, it's starting to come through. Laizy picks up one. bonkar grabs a double kill, and it's 75% in favor of capture of Abyss. Burrito Esports have brought their way back into this game, but it's going to come at a cost. The respawns are trickling back in for Abyss, and they're getting ready to advance their offensive play.
Very interesting ultimates on the board. We're going to see a couple that are active between a Cursed Arm and the Hexafire, which are huge damage dealers, but the big thing here is Thiel's really close to getting his Ancient Rage, and the Maldamba Dread Serpent might be up by the time it gets to that closer to 99%.
If Thiel gets Ancient Rage up, that could be required to hold. It's from above. The Cursed Arm comes through just too little too late as Bird takes Joelz out of the air, and Burrito Esports with the spicy plays and point hold come back into this game.
Yeah, I think when we bit into this burrito, it started off with a sour cream guacamole, and now we're starting to get that salsa. They're starting to come online. Laizy doing a really good job of diving back into that map and relying on his mechanics to get some secure damage and get to do it safely.
But I do have to wonder if Burrito's earlier misfortune was them trying to feel out their opponents rather than actually making the misplay. Of course, they're going to take the advantages wherever they can, but now they understand how Abyss is playing, and they're starting to dismantle them at the seams.
Yeah, absolutely. Laizy does fall, as you saw that dive on the backside, trying to get over towards that corner to give Shaolin a little bit of help and some distance really to get some damage in, not really able to convert, and you can see Bird doing a really good job.
And so is bonkar, dropping so much damage out from the Shaolin plant. It is available straight into it. Repulsor field not enough to mitigate all of that damage. Every member of Abyss in base. Haydz is here, they have Immortal, but Thiel keeps them busy. The knockback from Impaler Arrow is good, and Abyss are shut down. Equalizing is Burrito.
Thiel jumped in as that Makoa popped the Ancient Rage right in front of Spawn and said, I dare you to come out of base and contest this payload. What a really smart use. Of course, it's not going to be up for the early part of this fight, but you can see he's already about 10%, and it's going to boost up very quickly by this capture point.
So what I'm feeling from Burrito right now is since they are down in ultimates, they do have an ultimate deficit, although Laizy and spunkki both sitting close to being charged, is we're going to see the bait and switch. We're going to go in hard onto the objective, force Abyss to use their ultimates, and then come back in strong once they're up for Burrito.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is, on top of damage, as we just saw, was actually Victor, which we don't normally expect with big bodies with doing this damage from both the Laizy playing Eevee and bonkar on Shaolin. Those are huge damage numbers usually coming out of those characters. Victor is getting so much work done, though. And
it's because Bird is completely uncontested in all of these fights. Oh, reversal cancelled early. Oh, excuse me. Planted cancel early to avoid the throwback from reversal. All of Abyss get onto the objective, but where is Thiel going around the backside?
He's looking to pull somebody out. The backline is doing so much work for Abyss, and he wants to be a distraction. Eevee's right there with them, and you can see what they're doing. They're trying to get this Cassie, and she's distracted, which is allowing the front line for Burrito, get back in there, and Bonkar's curving her up, getting all this damage, again, securing these kills so clutch.
Oh my goodness, Laizy, you're making me motion sick here. Playing on Eevee at such a high sensitivity with just the repeated 360 spins and maximum mobility. Now Bird presses out to zone as Burrito have overtaken the capture percentage, which Abyss were granted early with Ruckus, but the ultimates are ready. And watch out for Kronicx as Hexafire is prepared.
Yeah, the interesting, and there it is, Hexafire coming out right through the middle. It's right down the center lane, and Joelz able to help convert on Bonkar, but still kills in the backside. You see the Immortal pop, but Thiel also able to peel right on top of that, and still chaos on the point as Fernando's trying to survive, but will not. The Makoa cannon too strong.
I love the fact that Haydz did use Immortal to keep Kronicx alive throughout Hexafire because they do become an immobile target. Ruckus is pretty much stationary once that ability is popped, but still, Immortal doesn't last forever, and that Hexafire only picked up 1 kill.
The big thing about it, what it did do is create a little bit of extra separation and a lot of burst damage. It scared off a couple of players. The problem was Thiel was not targeted at all, and he was able to get people out of a favorable position on the point. And now we're actually seeing the same thing happen as Fernando and Ruckus are not having that same synergy we saw earlier.
Oh, Planted will be shredding through. Kronicx drops down low. Repulsor field is active, but every single member of Abyss is under 50% HP. Respawn's coming back through. joshkent poked out heavily. Watch out as bonkar picks up a double kill. Looks for a triple kill onto Androxus. Oh my god, Bird pulls it through, and Burrito continue to advance.
I have to give a little criticism to joshkent. He was low on HP, was going into 3 other members of Burrito who were low, looking to have that star quality. I would have liked to see him be a little more passive, get his health pull back up, and kind of avoid Bonkar, who's essentially been doing this for the last 3 minutes, which is just sitting in the back, plugging people with holes, and then going straight into planet.
We'll hold that thought. We'll come back to Bonkar later as there's a Bonkar's play on the objective. Laizy flinks in, drops the Ice Storm, and tries to clean up, but nobody on Abyss actually falls, and this could be a misplay from Burrito as they don't capitalize on the setup too much. Now only just coming in, but Laizy is down to Haydz, and the front line has survived.
Yeah, but barely. You can see Haydz was not able to be near that payload. It actually got a lot of distance covered simply because Josh isn't going to dodge roll in there without any support. Now they are able to commit with the Maldamba being back up, and you can see still so much damage coming out of the Victor. We wouldn't have expected this normally.
It's just the Victor and the Charlene getting ready for the setup coming through from Makoa, and now with a setup of their own, Barrage incoming. Laizy and Bonkar and spunkki take out 3. Oh my goodness, Bonkar finds a double kill, capitalizing on that burst from Barrage, and now hooked out of the air is going to be joshkent. Cassie sent back to base. Burrito will push the payload through, and they take game number 1 in this best of 5 set.
Goodness gracious, Burrito coming back through again. The thing about Burrito that we need to keep in mind is early on, they like to kind of feel out where the positioning of their enemies are. They like to be patient. They like to either get a peel, get a poke, or find some way to just really get a strong arm around their enemy. And Abyss came out strong, did not let that be a vulnerability towards them, and got those first 2 points, but the itemization was really key, I think.
Itemization was very important, as was the positioning from a lot of these champions from Burrito. Notably, Thiel on Makoa, that last objective going right round the back side of the point fight, not forcing the issue on the objective where Ruckus is strongest, but taking the fight away from these frontliners and utilizing their space control with Dredge Anchor to set up so many fantastic kills. Anchor into Planted, that's devastating. 1,000 at least confirmed from that Dredge Anchor cannonball shot, and then the follow-up is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's really no escape from that unless you have an ice block, but even still, then everyone's going to sit there and look at you and go, time's ticking.
Don't. You'll send chills and shivers down my spine with that voice line. Of course, no Sky being played today. Saw it hovered a couple of times, only picked up this tournament by Stolzy so far, and we're getting to the point with Burrito and Abyss facing up against each other, and maybe that might be a pocket pick they might want to pull out if it's a kind of strategy we've seen Time Bomb being utilized as a point break tool previously. But for the time being, let's head through to the scoreboard and take a look at some of the stats. What's coming out to me is Alston very low on eliminations, very high on healing, but not providing the damage which perhaps Abyss needed to capitalize on their point pressure.
It's really tough to look at Maldamba against what he was facing up against because you really can't commit. You know, his job that game was to keep Ruckus alive. Fernando was able to sprint forward, and then when Fernando comes back, you keep Fernando alive. I think a lot of the time was spent pressing Q and pressing right click. You know, the Gourds that has the AoE heal on the ground, which does some healing over time, and then of course the Mending Spirits, which has that direct green link that you see that gets that little extra healing as well, adding over time. So it's interesting, though, because we usually see a lot of Maldamas against a Makoa try to get in there and get that stun. We didn't see that last game.
Yeah, if you can take a Makoa out of Shell Shield, it's very dangerous, but Thiel playing less of the defensive Makoa, more of the offensive hook Makoa, but for the time being, back to the maps. Next set, or rather next game in this set coming up, will be on Serpent Beach, sticking with the Temple Isle theme as we transition onto the recently reworked night map. It's a beautiful setting, it's a beautiful scene, it's a great opportunity and place to go for a cruise on Serpent Beach, I do hear. But let's talk about champion dynamics on this map and some of what we saw earlier today.
Indeed. The other thing that we're really doing well seeing is, especially on maps like this, is the combination, again, of a shielding character, Fernando or Makoa, plus Ruckus. He's able to get right on top of the payload once it is converted and really just kind of sit in front of it and hold left click the entire time. But besides that, there are a lot of opportunities for outside flanks, either going towards the sundial side, which is close to the actual beach itself, or going towards that little waterfall kind of sewer area on the backside. Allows for really interesting engagements, and it really brings a lot of characters to life. You know, Fernando has a lot of opportunity to flank around, but on top of that, being able to place either good turrets, maybe from a barrack, which we haven't seen today, really, or even for Ying, there's a lot of safe areas to set those deployables up.
Where they won't be taken down. That's the important thing about Ying as well, as we should talk about them in the previous game just a little bit. We saw Maldamba massively out-heal the Ying in that game, and part of that is because those illusions can be destroyed. Ying, she's fire and forget. Once you place your illusions down, which you can do at distance from you, allowing you to play more of the objective, they'll just passively heal your allies. But you can go in. That's one of the counters. We do see Cauterize picked up quite often to deal with Ying, but also you can pick up maybe Bulldozer for bonus damage to deployables and just straight up take out the illusions. Very strong if there's a barrack on the table as well.
Yeah, if there's a barrack on the table as well. I mean, that's one of those cards that we rarely, items rather, that we rarely see picked up simply because it does not have a lot of high value unless you are going up against a strong deployable team. Kind of like how we saw yesterday, Resilience was picked up by Matchpoint because they're going up against a wide variety of different types of crowd control. Those are very situational items. We typically see, especially defensive, is it majority of direct damage or AoE damage? Let's go Haven or Blast Shields. And then do they have primarily shields or primarily heals? Let's go either Cauterize or Wrecker.
And there's usually a mixture of both of those, Cauterize and Wrecker, on the table. That's one thing that we have seen this land so far, however, is very heavy itemization into those damage items in-game. I'm seeing a lot of red on the item loadouts on the left and right-hand sides of your spectator UI when we are sitting in base. So much of that Cauterize as well for the anti-heal. I'm not seeing a great deal of utility items come through, so teams are valuing counterplay rather than buffing themselves a great deal.
You know, the one that we see a lot of when you're looking at a couple of mid-tier regional teams, and really in like casual and ranked, but we see a lot of morale boost coming out, trying to get those ultimates up sooner, and that comes down to I want to individually be a better player. And I think the reason why we don't see that ever picked up, or not ever, but rarely picked up in instances with teams, is they like to have all their ultimates up near around the same time, so they can combine or at least find some way to isolate or zone, you know, any of those things they can do with a single or multiple ultimates combined is really where they find a lot of value in winning team fights or winning objectives.
That's exactly right. We're getting to the high level of competition where just focusing down the one playmaker on the enemy team isn't exactly how you can afford to play Burning Solar Ultimates. You do need to use those in combination, but Paladins certainly isn't all about the ultimates. We saw many plays in that last game that were made just off the back of raw mechanical skill from all these players, and Burrito Esports is certainly full of that. Let's talk about some of the playmakers on their team who have struggled in LAN settings previously and now seem to be really coming out of play.
Yeah, and that was the, you mentioned it, you know, them being at DreamHack, they were coming in as one of the big favorites into that tournament. You were there, you got to see the kind of collapse live. And it was interesting because everyone was looking at, was Torpedo then, with this kind of glimmer of, this is what the future of competitive esports will look like. They didn't show up though, and now they keep the majority of the same roster together, and they have been dominatingly since the summer circuit, essentially untouchable. They've had issues with D69, but they've never dropped a full actual set since the summer circuit.
And you know what I think has really helped Burrito on that flight path? is going to be communication rather than anything else. One thing that which we did observe from the DreamHack games is that during that time, Torpedo was very silent. They weren't actively talking, weren't actively communicating, and their new two pickups of Bird and Sun Commander for the online play, and bonkar, who has slotted in so well, especially playing Xiaolin and Kinessa so far today. They seem to be actively talking, they're animated whilst they're playing, and they're getting that efficient and effective communication across to one another. But I said flight path and communication indeed. Let's talk about Abyss and a little bit of backstory for the Oceanic team.
You know, these guys have been along for a long time. They have a lot of LAN experience across multiple gaming instances and events that have happened in Australia. But a little bit more, I mean, we see Joshkent, he likes to play very airborne characters. He plays Eevee, he plays Androxus. Do you think this has anything to do with his background as an Air Force
Air traffic
controller?
Maybe just a little bit. I mean, if you're observing that much just as your day job, it's kind of hard to flip that switch and flick all of it off. So it comes into effect in your gameplay. And I know that's something some of the players joke a little bit about. But we'll see if joshkent gets his fabled Eevee this time around as we do go into the champion draft for game number 2. Abyss, they have first pick.
Oh my goodness, and this is going to be interesting with Serpent Beach because of how many just different varieties they could pick. You know, we see a lot of Fernando Makoa are choosing between, you know, what is your number one pick? Opting for the Fernando here, which I think says a lot about what they want to do on the outsides of the map and not necessarily just the center part of the map.
Especially the early fight when most teams go to the high ground and force towards each other, try not to get poked out by long line of sight damage across the way, but bypassing that will be Eevee locked in for Burrito, going to either Laizy or Bird, and Makoa, which is definitely going over to Thiel to set up a lot of kills again.
Without a doubt, and I have to imagine it's going to be Laizy on Eevee just simply because he really does enjoy that character. And last game, he knows he's got a mastery of that character. He knows exactly where he's going to land with his blinks. He knows exactly how to manage his cooldowns, which is really key to being a high-tier Eevee player to respond to actually a big damage dealer in Xiaolin and then Ruckus to help establish the front line.
Splitting up Makoa and Ruckus, we saw the Dredge and get into planted combination be so deadly for Burrito previously. Stripping that away, I like this. Don't give them the combination that they want, and Ruckus and Fernando too is going to give Abyss, again, a lot of point pressure. Burrito respond with Maldamba. They're not going to give Fernando, Ruckus and Maldamba over to Abyss. No way. Yeah. But they will also draft into Cassie here, who can be played by a number of players on this very flex-dependent squad. Great reliable damage. Abyss, they've got 2 more options to close out their loadout.
Yeah, I like the Androxus pickup to kind of counter and give some extra mobility. The question is, what healer does come here? Oh boy, is it Sunday? Oh, let's go. The Grover coming back into play. We saw Alston play him earlier and did a very good job playing Grover.
Absolutely. And no, Abyss seemed to have really pioneered the Grover play coming into this tournament. They were talking a little bit about it to me behind the scenes and said, Grover's coming back in a big way. Grover is being slept on. And please put your hands together. Bless up. Show me your game, Grovers, in Twitch chat right now. I am ecstatic to see the tree returning to the battlefield. Burrito, they pick up a Victor to close out their own draft.
I really like the Victor pick. There are 2 options here that I saw. Victor was number 1 because if he picks up Cauterize, he can splash that damage. He can splash that damage across a number of different characters. The other option would have possibly been a Pip, simply because, again, double frontline plus Grover. If you can just get rid of those big bodies up front, it becomes a lot easier to focus them down.
You see, I don't like the Pip pick here, primarily because of what we saw yesterday. Resilience coming in would be a big factor. You pick up Pip, you have your Evil Mojo Polymorph Ultimate, which transforms enemies hit by it into chickens with only 1500 HP. Resilience reduces the duration of that crowd control significantly. Also works well against Maldamba's ultimate Dread Serpent, which applies a fear. Eevee's Ice Storm as well, Cassie's Disengage, and even the stun which comes through from Makoa's Dredge Anchor. It would be highly effective, and instead just more damage may offer the players some more versatility here.
And it's a really solid pick too, simply because Bird was essentially unchecked for a lot of the back half of that last match on Frog Isle, and I'm sure that we're going to try to see the same storyline build for the Russian Gunner. So as we start to move back towards in-game, we'll have to see who exactly is playing what. But again, this is a big game too.
So here we have it. Abyss fighting out of the blue corner. 1 game down so far, led by joshkent on the aerial Androxus. Joelz takes Xiaolin. Alston on Grover. Kronicx on Ruckus. And Haydz finishes up with Fernando.
And for Burrito Esports, leading 1-0 will be spunkki on the Maldamba. Laizy playing Eevee. Thiel on Makoa. Bird will again be playing Victor. And bonkar on the Cassie.
And look at this. Eevee bypassing along the side. Oh my goodness. The Maldamba. No, it was just the stun coming through. Shut down from Joelz. The Eevee immediately joshkent dives backline and is now looking for a pick onto Thiel, onto spunkki, onto anybody, but has bitten off more than they can chew.
Yeah, look at the lack of focus coming out there initially. There was probably a couple of different calls coming out of whether you wanted to go for the Maldamba or the Makoa. They end up getting both of them, and you see again, it's Axon time just launching these from point almost all the way towards spawn.
Absolutely all worth. I saw that the EV blanket earlier was stunned just like that. Impaler arrow comes through. These Shaolin players are just so good at predicting EV at this point. The Winter Witch, who is such a keystone pick in so many team compositions for so long, is being shut down completely. Abyss, they're running away with this at 78% and climbing.
This is, again, what we saw previously coming out of Abyss. They're able to establish themselves early with this damage, these really nice long flanks, and the 3-kill coming out on the back end of this. Although there's a response, it's not quite over, as it was the objective does get captured on. Just barely. Laizy and bonkar not able to get there in time.
At this point, that response, these kills going back towards Burrito Esports are buying time for their team. Take a look at all those stat lines for Burrito. That's so unusual, so uncharacteristic of this hyper carry team, all sitting on negative KDAs, except bonkar and Cassie, who is yet to die. Maybe they will be the saving grace to keep their team alive, or maybe we'll see Laizy on EV start to play up.
Yeah, it's going to come down to who can break this front line of Fernando Ruckus for the side of Burrito. It's just so much shielding, especially when the Fernando's nearby for that repulsor field. He gets that extra damage mitigation. Not the case here, as there's too much damage from everywhere. Oh, the hook almost pulls him off, but it will just be Bird capturing and finalizing that kill on Haydz. So again, Grover last up is going to need to find a way out, and Eevee's not going to let him get away for free.
Grover can box out quite effectively though, especially when Fernando and Ruckus come to play. Blinks up to the high ground and is safe for the time being. Laizy waiting to soar away to safety, but is being chased down by Androxus. Still alive for the time being. A distraction then in the backside of Abyss. A thorn in their side who they have to deal with before advancing any further.
They also have to be a little bit careful here because the scout was just engaged. They know the Shaolins by themselves. You can see ultimates are being used on the right side. It is a 1-for-1 at the moment, but still the pressure being established by Burrito, although nobody else is falling. And now the help from Shaolin coming back over the top, able to get some more damage on that Makoa, who barely survived.
Fireball looking to close out a kill. Thiel is now healing up thanks to Maldamba. Closes out a kill onto joshkent. The wind is out of Abyss's sails, but they're still trying to push forwards. And look at all the focus fire coming down on the Thiel from Ruckus. They must retreat. Gorge around the corner will be available shortly. Burrito Esports, they're going to try and hold on. 35 seconds on this push remain.
And they are still here contesting, but again, they're not there in full force, and it looks like it might start being kind of a stagger for them as far as their death timers. There's a lot of ultimates on the board, and honestly, I would have liked them to see to use them just a little bit ago, because with about 45 seconds left, they have enough time to get that charge back up, but now they essentially are forced into a position where they have to hold them or fully commit. I don't see them fully committing, though.
I think in this situation, Abyss would be better off just to disengage. Don't feed Burrito any more credits, as they are now sitting on positive KDAs, and just retreat, but instead straight to the objective. In goes Ruckus, dredged into their doom as Bird shuts down Joelz as well. Looks for the double kill as they focus down Grover, and Androxus double kill for Bird, trying to find the triple kill as Fernando falls to Laizy, and Grover will get out of there, make like a tree and leaf, they say. Burrito defends successfully.
Man, it's so difficult to watch Abyss just throw them kills like that. 2 people fell at the beginning of that fight. The last 3 should have just backed off and said, fine, we're not going to get this payload. It's so far to go. Overtime was already in effect, and you can see the net worth has really established itself in Burrito's favor. All 5 characters more off than where Abyss is.
More credits mean more items, so let's take a look at the right-hand side of your screen where Burrito lead in credits and see what they're going into. Heavy emphasis on a lot of Havens here.
Yeah, Havens, and then the split between Wrecker and, of course, Cauterize. It's essentially what you would predict with the experience, knowing that you're going up against double shield with a very solid heal coming out of Grover early game. And the longer that Cauterize gets on board, the more it gets the healing reduction, that ultimate's going to feel like nothing.
spunkki, notably, however, has gone into Kronicx too, so a lot of cooldown reduction on this Maldamba, which will help keep the team alive. Straight into the backline goes Haydz on Fernando, but the Dread Serpent comes out, and Bird picks up a double kill to capitalize on the confusion. confusion.
Yeah, Thiel is also there picking up a double kill, pulling one out of position, then capitalizing and finding the last kill on joshkent. Haydz does the right thing there just by committing his life to into the fray and get his death timer closer to the rest of his teammates. And Eevee now going out to zone, and this is where Burrito's very strong.
Although Burrito with a dredge anchor do pull down Grover. Laizy blinks into the backline to shut down Joelz, takes the Shaolin, the desert wind out of Abyss's sails, and at 69% on the objective, we see Thiel challenging everybody as Makoa in Ancient Rage, just preventing anybody from Abyss from closing the gap onto the objective and contesting. This one is so one-sided towards Burrito.
Yeah, they're really coming online again in this mid-game situation just because of how much experience they have to know where their strengths fall. Thiel had to use one ultimate, but it zoned out 3 characters. That is totally worthwhile when you're sitting at 99 and now capturing, again, Burrito up 2-1 in scoreline now.
And notably, it was important to zone out the frontliners from Abyss. Preventing them from reaching the objective meant that we couldn't see the constant contest.
Whoa!
Edge dancing will be
Almost.
Thiel, but no, Fernando gets back on, impaled into a wall. Thiel will retreat behind cover, behind a wall for the time being. Nobody on the payload from Burrito, they're losing time.
Yeah, but at the same point, what they were trying to do is establish that right side really quickly and then come back. So they had a position where the Eevee can start to blink in rather freely. Blinking from those upper and lower areas where those ruined kind of houses are is really a safe spot for her to go in and out.
Very, very important. bonkar has activated Scout, trying to find where the flanks are coming from. Just chewing through Haydz' shield relatively slowly. They have got Wrecker online, but now with no shield in the middle of a lot of danger, Haydz is about to fall unless they can reach their team, which they do, and do manage to survive. Abyss are putting up a good defense here so far.
Yeah, and they're doing a really good thing about making sure they're not getting pressured out. They're really going right at it, even though they are a little bit below on itemization, and saying we have to fight here, because with less than a minute 30 left, the payload has really not moved at all. And this is a good spot as far as timing-wise and length-wise as far as a possible successful defense.
So it's going to come down to one of the playmakers, Laizy, as they look to make a play, blink into the back line for the Ice Storm ultimate. bonkar cleans up Alston on Grover. No more support, no more healing for you, they say. Burrito will begin to advance. Thiel picks up 2 on Makoa. This turtle is ready to go, and with dredge anchor in hand, they'll look to shut down Androx as pulled from the rafters. It's a full team wipe, and the staggered respawns are going to seriously hurt Abyss.
And look at Laizy and Thiel getting right up in here again, punishing anybody they put eyes on. Alston falls. Haydz is falling low. This is not good. They have all 5 ultimates up. They might want to think about using them here in the near future to reestablish their defense.
But so do Burrito. They have a couple of ultimates to their name. Scout for bonkar, not really that useful in this situation, but watch out for Bird and Barrage. If we see the point contest come through, that damage is definitely going to rain down from the sky. Somebody from Abyss must contest as the payload nears conversion. It's going to be Kronicx. It's going to be Grover. It's looking like it's already over as Hexafire comes through as well, keeping everybody still in the game. Kronicx picks up 1, looks for a second, and Abyss looking like they may just be able to hold for a couple of more seconds.
Yeah, with less than 10, you hear the countdown happening in the background. This is exactly what Abyss needed to do, but I would have liked to see them do this about 30 seconds ago so they could establish their self going through. Now the Dread Server coming out very late in the round as well from spunkki.
But still contesting the objective will be Thiel. Alston has gone down, no more support, and sustained for the side of Abyss. You dare challenge Makoa. Thiel is in Ancient Rage, swinging away with that dredge anchor, but Immortal mitigates all of that damage. It's neck and neck. It's a slap fight on the objective, and Thiel just can't seem to find the kills, but will the rest of the team follow up? Up 2 players. Currently a Hexafire comes through as Abyss, and the defense is successful.
And the follow-up kill just around the corner from downtown. Also able to find that double kill at the end, and this is what you want from Abyss. Look at that net worth. It is evening out, actually favoring really 2 good characters for it, the Ruckus and the Grover, who is that big established objective point control.
With all those credits in hand, let's talk about some of the utility itemization coming through from Abyss. Going into Nimble is Joelz and Alston right now, a card or an item which increases your movement speed in game. So we have a hypermobile Shaolin and a hypermobile Grover. This is very unusual.
But at the same time, if you're looking at the Grover standpoint, that little extra bit of mobility is really helpful to kind of dance back and forth, exactly, from the front line to the back line. I really like that little butt shake you had there. It's really nice.
I mean, I would salsa dance and make like Fernando, but I can't. I have 2 left feet. Never ask me to dance.
Should get that looked at.
Or maybe, yeah, that's a bit of an interesting condition. Into the backline blinks Laizy. In and out is the theme of this champion's playstyle, this player's playstyle, but they're caught in danger, almost shut down. Do manage to escape barely with their life, and meanwhile Thiel is coming from behind looking for the flanking play.
But this is different from Burrito. They're not trying to establish something the flank first. They actually went straight for the capture point. They're already above 40%, and it's really on Abyss to find something to do, and they're getting picked out left, right, and center. It's Androxus on the back end. Josh falling low will actually take that cannon shot just before the hook on Thiel and says, no thank you, see you later.
And as you said, all the while objective play is coming through. Laizy does spot out the Fernando going towards the objective. They're stunned, taking a lot of damage for a second. Can they buy enough time for their team to respawn? The damage from Ruckus comes through. Laizy is in trouble. Manages to escape and blink to safety. This could still be Burrito's objective capture despite the control coming through from Abyss.
Yeah, that not getting that take on the EV was really huge and actually puts a big favor into Burrito. But here comes the bless up. Church of Grover open. You see him raise into the roof, but still all the Cauterize is taking him down, even though Haydz gets a really nice double kill in the middle of that engagement.
Catching the grenade, however, will be Androxus. JoshKent trying to turn things around for their team. Barrage is incoming. Shaolin finds the shot down onto Victor here, and Laizy is still trying to duel versus Androxus in the backline. Respawns coming through from both teams, but Laizy has fallen. Starting to equalize is Abyss. Overtime, Grover time once again, and it's all blue on the objective as a repulsor field keeps everybody alive.
And Bonkar's doing nothing but hitting his shield, but there's the Dread Serpent to keep El Tabo alive. The damage coming in from both spunkki and, of course, Bird right there. Health pools are falling very low for Abyss.
Oh, and up in the air, we're seeing the Androxus drop the accursed down. They can't find the damage. They can't find the kills. Burrito Esports come through off the back of a fantastic Dread Serpent as spunkki survives and Burrito get capture again.
He could not have had more than 150 HP. He somehow gets the channel off and the explosion on the Dread Serpent off. That was such a big play from spunkki. MVP right now for getting that point.
My goodness, keeping the team alive, keeping the dream alive, keeping all hope in play is spunkki for Burrito, a player that we just don't talk about so much because like every good support, you only notice them when they're not there, except when they make setup plays like that. Back to the objective, however, we are looking at the payload push, steadily advancing as Thiel is right in the base of Abyss. He's playing hide and seek again.
This is ridiculous, and this is going to be very devastating for Abyss if they don't know where he is or if they don't turn around and try to focus him down. He's going to get such great backline peel, and Eevee's right back here as well, doing a ton of damage. Kronicx falling, Ice Storm underneath. This is a bad spot for everybody for Abyss. You see them trying to get away, but they cannot because they do not have mobility up.
2 for Laizy, 3 in a row for Laizy, picking up a double kill, looking for a 4th. Androxus might get a return kill, but Blink keeps Eevee far too mobile. Will we find the shutdown play? It's a duel to the death, but Blink's available once again. Up and down goes Laizy. Into the drink goes JoshKent as bonkar sends them spiraling off the edge. Hexafire used to stall, but still all the while the payload moves closer and has finally reached a standstill.
JoshKent did something very smart right there. A really good shot on Kronicx from Laizy. He was hiding behind that box, kind of just jumping, making them want to shoot at him above the box, and it saved so much time for all those cooldowns and those death timers to come back online for Abyss, giving them a shot at defense, but still just barely under a minute left, and this payload is right around the corner.
You can see some initial poke being transferred out around the objective. Not just poke as Thiel pulls JoshKent to their doom. Barrage incoming as well. Immortal mitigates all that damage from Haydz as they keep the team alive. But everybody is dropping low from both teams. Spring has come, but Cauterize is applied. And that heal isn't as effective as they would like it to be. Abyss are holding on tooth and claw and nail. But Laizy is back around and waiting to play. No! Sent back to base by JoshKent.
Huge shutdown by JoshKent. Cassie still on the point. Bonkar doing a good job of putting some damage on Meldama, finding a really nice stun there as well. Androxus falls. This is still very much a contestation. The Dread Serpent gets the whole front line and Fernando's out.
And there's so much damage coming through. The reload stun is ready, but still all the while the constant through this fight is going to be Ruckus as Hexafire is activated, ripping through. Kronicx holding the front line for their team. 3 seconds left. Overtime is prepared. Who's going to come out on top shift? This is neck and neck.
You can't ask me questions like this and how close it is. I'm going to be wrong every time. Everything's still being forced on the point. Overtime is in effect. No ultimates on the board, so it's really going to come down to who can outfrag who and establish their front line. You see Fernando and Ruckus are right there, but still, Thiel is not afraid. He's jumping right in, but he does fall. Joelz doing such a good job of picking him apart with that Shaolin.
And it's not just Joelz that comes into play. It's Kronicx as well, making the defensive plays for Abyss Esports. That repulsor field in the last fight was so important. Ruckus was not focused at all. Even when Dread Serpent came out, the focus was onto Fernando, who was then kept alive by Ruckus getting out of the fear, activating repulsor field, utilizing Immortal. It's all great teamwork. Abyss, such a cohesive unit, you'd think they were made out of glue.
Well, yeah, literally Elmer style happening for the Aussies. But the big thing here on top of not just having the fact that the repulsor field is there, it's the awareness of every other teammate with the Ruckus to know what the cooldowns look like, and vice versa. The Ruckus knowing what the cooldowns are across the board for the rest of his team. He may have felt the Blossom and said, I have no more heals for a couple seconds. Once I start getting low, I need that repulsor field to go up, so that way we can find some sort of damage mitigation throughout the rest of that engagement.
And that just buys you enough time to get Blossom up again, or even Whirlwind as necessary via Grover. And right at the end there, I do want to point out as well, we know that we do have a Cauterized 3 on Victor, who has very easy line-of-sight application onto any champion they spray with their Assault Rifle, reducing 90% of that healing coming through from Whirlwind. But Whirlwind was activated behind Fernando's shield, keeping the frontliners safe, keeping the support safe, preventing Cauterize from being applied, which is so important to stay alive in a situation like this.
And just, again, furthering that awareness, knowing the fact that if you can put that shield up first, bro, I'll have that Whirlwind right behind you, and we'll get everyone as healthy as possible, trying to reduce the Cauterize incoming.
Dr. Grover MD, and Apple Day keeps the doctor away. I'm feeling like Grover might be an apple tree at this point.
No.
You look a little seedy?
What's that, dude? Look like a little seedy. Gosh, this is too much. But with the pause going on in game, you know, the other thing that we need to talk about really quickly is how well these Immortals have been throughout the entire tournament. Like the counter engagement, we hear barrages going off, and it's like, all right, let me just wait a couple seconds so all the damage comes in and everyone commits to following up with that damage, and then Immortal comes out and they can actually turn the fight very quickly.
Right, the timing for Immortal has been so crucial, because when you fire barrage, you hear barrage incoming, that's Victor activating their ultimate, and then when the targeter hits the ground, there's about a second before the shell actually drops out of the sky. So waiting for the first one to hit, nobody's gonna die from that, it's only 1,000 damage, although that is big burst comparable to Shaolin, then waiting for the 2 followed up, because most Victor players will fire those last 2 barrage shots very quickly, because it does make you a bit of a sitting duck channeling that ultimate. Then Immortal comes through, 2,000 big AoE burst damage completely wasted.
Yeah, and that's been the storyline. We haven't seen much of it, like from our own perspective, but that has been why you hear all these ultimates coming off and you're not seeing anything in the kill feed. That Immortal is so huge. The area of it is not just wide, but it also is pretty tall as well. So when you have an Immortal that's popped, for instance, underneath the bridges and you have your teammates right above you, they're actually also being applied that mitigation and that survivability, which is really, really important. And again, it comes down to the fact that both teams are doing a really good job, and I have to hit on these healers. Spunkki's been doing a really good job of getting great crowd control with the reload from the Snake while also having the Dread Serpent ultimate, but he's also really doing a good job of putting down gourds and letting his teammates know where the healing is so they can retreat back to something.
His playstyle is gorgeous, and yes, I've already used that one yesterday. I can't help it, but augmented by their pickup of the Kronos item, which we talked about a little bit before. This reduces the cooldowns of all of the abilities in Spunkki's kit, and that just allows him to be more sustaining. It reduces the cooldown of Slither for survivability, for Gord to keep the frontliners alive for the big AoE healing over time, and also Mending Spirits, and we can't overstate this at all. Mending Spirits is still a skill shot to hit. If you want it, if you're a good Kinessa, you'll probably actually be a good Maldamba just because you have that precision. And if you land those precise shots onto your airborne allies, especially like Laizy, who might be flying around out of Ice Block at very low HP, you could just keep a teammate alive.
Yeah, and that's really the sustained power that Maldamba brings as an isolated individual character. He's kind of got this hybrid build where he can put out damage, he can do crowd control, he can get good healing out, and it really brings the entire package to allow the rest of your team comp to essentially do whatever they need to do. They can be passive, they can re-engage, they can be aggressive, you're still going to get that heal. It's just so many good things coming out of a single character, and that's why we see, especially Burrito, they actually really do prefer to use Maldamba over Ying. In the EV's Winter Classic, they used him 2 out of the 3 matches they played against D69, and we've seen them prefer Maldamba over the waifu so far today.
So we've talked about the supports, and now we come down to 3-3 in game number 2 on Serpent Beach between Burrito Esports and Abyss. Abyss could even up the set score here. They could make this go to at least 4 games. Burrito are looking to close this out and have taken 2 capture objectives in a row. As late game itemization starts to come through, more Cauterize comes online, I'm going to have to say this is going towards Burrito's favor, but how can Abyss prevent that from being a total shutout?
We've actually seen kind of a flip-flop of roles. So early on, Abyss was really taking the fight to them because, again, Grover's healing early is very strong. That Blossom has a very large radius and does a lot of burst heal immediately. Not to mention, passively, he also heals over time once you're nearby him. That's very, very powerful. It's not mimicked by any character in the game. But now that Burrito knows that their Cauterize is on board, they're starting to be more aggressive. And to really respond, Alston has been stepping stepping backwards and trying to get more distance, because again, the longer the axe travels, the more damage it does. So now Abyss is playing a little more patient and trying to find holes to really punch through.
And I think this is necessary from Abyss. They have to back off and try not to engage as a group into the backline of Burrito, because primarily of actually one player from Burrito who is actually roping around the entire time, looking for some dredge anchor plays. It's Thiel, the Makoa player in this game, who transitioned back after DreamHack Summer from a damage role with a Cassie Mastery over to frontliner and has really been embracing this hide-and-seek playstyle. Talk to me about that.
The big thing about it is Thiel is very experienced up front. He's been really rocking that playstyle for the last couple months. You know, he was kind of a damage dealer earlier on and has really established himself as, I'm going to be the frontliner. I enjoy being the frontliner, and you can see how that aggressiveness and that experience has really paid off as far as not just kind of winning the battle up front, but penetrating right through and finding damage in the backline. That's why we see him try to take these sneaky little flanks, so that way he can get towards any of the supports, any of the more stationary damage dealers, and he can make his presence felt from a more unexpected area.
Which is certainly so important. You know, Thiel's play seems elemental in this game. Out of the 5 elements, we've got Earth, Water, Wind, Air, and Surprise, because it's Thiel behind you with the dredge anchor, throwing you straight off the map. And I do love that adaptation of playstyle, but that's augmented by one of the items in game, Master Riding, which we're seeing a lot of frontlines pick up recently. They know that they're going to die quite quickly. They want to get back to the fight as quickly as possible. Wardoom utilizing that massively in the previous sets with Matchpoint yesterday in Group A. Now Thiel adopting a similar playstyle, but a tank, a frontliner coming from behind, it's certainly not something you expect and can really throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah, and the other thing about the difference between a Wardoom and a Thiel, and this is kind of why one shines in different areas than others. Thiel is a lot more passive when it comes to that kind of thing. You know, you don't see him doing these really tricky Fernando things. He likes to be closer to his team. He likes to know that he can have somebody else who can get there. And really where he shines is the fact that he's able to communicate those needs and those wants a lot more than really any other frontliner we've seen. His versatility to go either stationary or aggressive really is shown by how much support he gets on the flanks with his team.
It certainly is the case. We saw capitalization from Dredge Anchor straight into Charlene, planted all through Game 1, which was really one of the main storylines there for me, because it's almost an instant kill in every single scenario, unless you're a frontliner or you're an EV who has Ice Block, and even then you're in trouble because you are a sitting duck. But taking Charlene away from Burrito has been Abyss Esports, and they've been looking good with it so far. Is it enough to turn the tide of battle at this point?
At this point, I want to say yes, but I think a lot of that is just because of what we've seen so far. I mean, the 2 characters we've seen really rise is Shaolin and Ruckus. So it's going to be really interesting to see where Shaolin's utilized late, simply because Shaolin's been doing so good early on. That with the Ruckus on top of that, they've been able to go through and really establish a front line, but Shaolin is able to destroy front lines so quickly just because of having Wrecker plus the planet. So that's really key, and I think that's the real role that we need to take a look at as far as Shaolin's use late game here.
Definitely that Wrecker coming into play, and looking at the players across, we've had Burrito on our screens this entire time. They're fairly confident, and they're going to be utilizing that confidence as we do get ready to head back into game. 3-3 is the scoreline. This final capture objective could set the tone for the rest of the set. And before we go any further, we do just want to announce to you that we are using a backup camera here due to technical difficulties. So enjoy Evie, Laizy, and their point of view as they get ready to go absolutely mental this game. Look at how quickly they're across to the objective.
Yeah, and Laizy's going to be our on-camera guy right now. He's playing in game and put the GoPro on. And this is really big as far as how he's able to dash in and out. joshkent falling really early here. And again, Burrito is establishing themselves. This is different than we saw before. They're getting aggressive, and they're going for that early point control now that they're in the late game.
And Laizy finding another kill after Thiel cleans up Kronicx as well. It's looking all blue on the objective so far. Up in the air, Laizy is on a killing spree as they clean up Joelz, looking for blood in the back line, about to take out Fernando, and the mobility is out of this world. Look at how he plays on such a high DPI and sensitivity that he can make these quick micro adjustments as Eevee with barely a flick of his wrist. Well, this does leave him a little bit vulnerable. careful if he needs to be in a precise aiming situation.
Yeah, and he's got to be careful here with Bird falling. That's really their backup source of damage as far as sustained damage onto the point. You can see him trying to blink and poke a little bit, but he's not being nearly as aggressive as before. 99% though, even though Abyss is now on the point, but Laizy still cleaning up some outside sources. The accursed arm on top is actually finding a number of damage. That's 2 kills right there for joshkent, and still Abyss establishing control. You can see the number 2 players are on point, and now Abyss taking control as the Laizy falls.
And we are seeing the scoreboard pop up a little bit, and down there we're seeing the barrage coming in from Victor as Immortal ends. Bad timing from Haydz, their shield is up. Laizy goes back to the fray, 75% to 99% for Abyss. Nobody on the objective. No, we see Laizy going again, met straight with the Impaler arrow from Joelz, and is shut down. Overtime is ticking for the blue team. The respawns are coming through. Who's going to get an edge? It's Kronicx with a double kill. Nobody can get back on. 96-99. Abyss comes strong in game 2 and take the victory versus Burrito.
Oh my goodness, what a clutch play at the very end, finding not only Eevee, but then turning focus, knowing no big damage. Let's go for the front line. Front line falls. Let's go for the support. Nobody else was left, and that's absolutely huge. Abyss taking the map, now evening this up 1-1, and that's huge, because now they have a little bit more room to play with, not having their backs up against the wall, which would have been 2-0. It would have been really tough to come back.
We're seeing at least 4 games, which means we're seeing at least 4 out of 5 available maps, and this is going to really push the teams to their limits of how deep into their map pools they really want to go. However, for the time being, you can see some players from Abyss looking pretty happy and contented with their victory here. It came down to a 3-3, a 4-3 situation, 99 to 99%, but when they came back in on that final objective, it was very strong. A lot of that set up by taking Laizy out of the fight early from Shaolin.
It actually starts earlier than that with Bird falling. When Bird falls on Victor and is not able to have that, here's where the damage is coming from, Laizy has to retreat back because he knows that he's going to be the focus. So without that poke, he's not able to get aggressive. Once he tries to get back aggressive, he's immediately focused, he falls, and then the focus kind of snowballs from there.
Bird unable to soar, sitting here with clipped wings, but Victor was somebody who we, again, slept on just a little bit. During that last game, Victor able to deal so much area damage with their grenade and the Grenadier 4 cooldown reset, which is a staple for most loadouts. They were very consistent throughout the last game, but it wasn't enough to pull through. They are also quite immobile as Victor, as we touched on earlier during the drafting phase, and can be shut down. But I'm surprised to see them fall, or I was surprised to see them fall so early with no dedicated flanker to really hunt them down.
You know, that's a really good point that you bring up. There really was not a dedicated flanker throughout that entire match when it comes down to Abyss usually flexing an Androxus that can get around the outside and really do a lot of damage from unexpected sources. This was a much more controlled and much more patient Abyss than what we'd seen previously in a different way. With no Kinessa coming through, knowing that they have the Grover who can really put a lot of damage out at distance while still bringing burst heal, they really decided to stay a lot more centralized, and I really like that playstyle change considering what map we were just on.
And I feel like it's that damage over distance and that burst which might have been hindering right at the end there Bird on Victor, because of course Victor, they have an assault rifle, they deal damage over time. It's sustained compared to the burst coming through from Grover and Shaolin. So if these two champions lock up a line of sight, as soon as Bird pops their head out, well, they're at half HP already. Victor, not exactly the most meaty of damage champions.
No, not at all. And with the lack of mobility, if you get a crippling throw on him where you are not able to use that sprint, he immediately gets the target, and it looks about as wide as Lake Michigan.
You're basically Tyra at that point.
Yeah.
Except that you do have a grenade and an ultimate, and, well...
other abilities that are different as well.
Yeah, there are some of those. Tyra has a firebomb.
Indeed.
Yeah, she's also a monster hunter.
She's also a monster hunter. You need to be careful here, Vox. You're going to be starting to write checks your bodies can't cash.
And oh my god, you pulled it in as well. Okay, you're soaring away with these Top Gun jokes, but interestingly enough, we did see Victor utilized by Burrito. We saw Tyra yesterday. Do you think she's going to come out again? With how strong Grover was and how you can't apply Cauterize through shields, and we saw that big defensive Fernando play, might be a good look if the Firebomb just applies that to everybody.
In theory, yes. In actuality, against high-tiered players, I think there's just too many negatives to her lack of mobility to go with that small positive, relatively. It's a very big positive, but it's one thing compared to the many things that kind of keep her from really succeeding. I have a hard time believing there's going to be some kind of a surprise flex pick with a Tyra coming out.
I've got to agree with you there. I just don't see it being too likely. Although, notably, there have been targets on the side of Abyss that have been hard to shut down. looking at also one of her abilities, her Hunter's Mark as well, applying bonus damage to the champion that is targeted by that ability. It could be a good look to try and take down those priority picks. Notably, I mean, even the Grover that was staying alive, the Fernando with their Immortal coming out of it with Hunter's Mark on would be easy to be chewed through. Or, and hold out on this, the Ruckus with Repulsor Field helping to counteract that damage reduction might be a good look.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially when you consider what characters were also taking Wrecker, you know, that shield will go down very quickly, that is the emitter, and then the Repulsor can then get counteracted. So you're really kind of getting two birds with one stone. So that definitely makes sense. But the big thing about it is, who else from the opposite? Like, how can Tyre be countered? And the list goes literally from A to Z and then back up to A again, I think, as far as that goes.
We don't have a Z champion in Paladins,
well, not yet.
No, not yet. That might be coming at some point in the future. Who knows what goes through the minds of the designers? And we had one of those up here earlier today with, of course, Kret casting one of the previous sets. But for the time being, I've got to ask you another question. Yes, I'm reusing the pun. Grover, utilized earlier by Abyss, shown a lot of value so far. Is this something which Burrito might be looking to pick up? They valued Maldamba so much.
I do not see Burrito changing their play style because of what they're facing. You know, we saw a little bit of that from like Team QG yesterday. The Chinese team was learning the game and they go, hey, we see why this works. Let's try it. And it was successful for them. Burrito's established. You know, they have the ability to utilize all of their strong picks. And again, just like we've seen D69 and Matchpoint, they're able to play any character. So it doesn't really make a difference as far as who plays what. They can even just change. Like, for instance, maybe Laizy doesn't play Eevee and Bird does. And it brings a different dynamic as far as how Eevee is played generally.
It certainly does. And you actually mentioned a word there which I think we should touch on whilst we have the opportunity to do here at the Paladins Invitational at Hi-Rez Expo 2017. History. Burrito Esports have 3 core members who are of the strongest online team in Europe, Torpedo Gaming, and this provides us with the opportunity to talk about, because they've been so long established, where Paladins Esports started and where it began. Of course, you're a beta player. You were there right at the beginning. I was day one, brought into Access by buying my Founders Pack. And there were no custom games at the time when we joined, so immediately players were drawn into Paladins. They wanted to be able to scrim, they wanted to be able to 5v5 play competitively. So right when Paladins Esports, quote unquote, actually started with one of the Reddit tournaments, we had groups of 5 people in parties actually queuing up at the exact same time to try and stream snipe each other or queue snipe each other to get into the same match. Custom games eventually introduced by command lines, and we started to see the first few tournaments really break out. But again, we had no spectator mode, so if there were casters, and you being one of the first pioneering the forefront of that scene, used to load up a Twitch stream from one of the players' perspectives and cast, kind of similar to how, with no audio as well, to how we just finished that game on Serpent Beach with Laizy, and that's a bit of a throwback, eh?
It's almost back to a time that we don't want to remember. Like, I've almost repressed that so much, like trying to recast like a 240p stream.
Oh, and if you're trying to sync that with another person as well,
my goodness,
3, 2, 1, F5. The things that we went through to be able to bring broadcast to you, but at last we got our spectator mode. We had the Paladins World weekly tournaments really take off, and then all of the Paladins World tournaments, the qualifiers for DreamHack Summer in our first major LAN environment. And from then, we've seen Paladins Esports explode around the world, not just in Europe and North America, but as we're seeing in all of the international regions, which have also recently been granted their own specific servers. Oceania, Latin America, Brazil, and recently as well, the CIS EVs Winter Classic for the Russia and surrounding states region. We've seen such a magnificent turnout, and well, you're the expert at all these international regions. How's it been looking?
It's really exciting to see the growth, and especially Brazil is the one we've highlighted a lot, but also the CIS was huge.
Yeah.
Their tournament was relatively not covered so great, and they had so many extra teams. And I had to give a special shout out, Southeast Asia is still a thing.
It certainly is. They're doing their own tournaments, community weeklies going on behind the scenes, organized and coordinated through their Discord server. So keep an eye out for that if you are tuning in from the SEA region. A big shout out to all of our viewers. We are going to cut to a quick break just whilst we get something sorted. Technical difficulty with one of the players, but we'll bring you straight back into the action. And I'm sure you're shivering with anticipation just as we are for Game 3 of Abyss Esports versus Burrito. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back at last then to this epic set between Burrito Esports and Abyss Esports. My name is Vox, joined by I hold Shift, and currently 1-1 is the set scoreline, which I don't think anybody was expecting. Burrito, so dominant online, now being tested by this Oceanic team.
This is the first time Burrito's lost a map in a while. Just going to say it. It's been a while since Burrito has had this much trouble with a team. The only other team really giving that is D69 in their own region. So as we head back to maps, it's going to be really interesting to see where the dynamic goes now that we know this is going to go at least 2 more maps, possibly 3 more.
Which could occupy all of the available maps left to us in our 7 pool with 2 bans. Game 3 coming up is going to be Frozen Guard. I'm excited for this one. Abyss utilized Kinessa and Charlene magnificently on this in the first set of the day versus Eager, beating them out in a 4-0 sweep. Burrito have got to be prepared for this.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that I don't think anyone is really expecting to see Kinessa as much as this Abyss squad has preferred to use her. We've been seeing Abyss. They've been here for a while. This is something that's interesting. They've been here in Atlanta for the last, really since before Christmas, which is nuts because they've had the time to set up their computers in their room and actually play a lot of North American teams and, you know, getting a little inside information. I've seen them, you know, talking to Josh and the rest of the guys from Abyss Esports is that they actually really try to find ways to utilize Kinessa because they think she's a resource that no one's paying attention to.
I mean, if you get a headshot onto Eevee at full charge, it's 1800 damage pre-mitigation. That's a guaranteed kill onto the Winter Witch, but Eevee herself is one of the primary reasons that I feel we haven't really seen Abyss run Kinessa so far. Picked up 2 games in a row for Burrito. Laizy utilizing her masterfully, although not enough so to be able to take a victory in Game 2. If Abyss elect to go into an Eevee option here, we saw them go for a very long line of sight based composition rather than Ruckus, which they've elected to go for in the first 2 games. On Frozen Guard, we might see the Kinessa come out again.
Yeah, the really interesting thing about Eevee on Frozen Guard in particular for me is the fact that when it's a neutral capture point, when you're trying to fight for that payload control, she's predictable. She's not going to go straight to the point more often than not. She's going to look for the outside area where that wall is or closer towards the statues are. She's not going to funnel all of her energy and her health pool into the middle. So if there is a Shaolin or a Kinessa, they know to continually check those different outside flanks, and it's very narrow for her. Those are where we see impaler arrows and really big headshots come out from Kinessas.
Got to remember also that Eevee's blink has a limited range. In order to blink directly above Kinessa at an angle of 45 degrees or so to come down and surprise this Kinessa to prevent them from shooting you, often Eevees will soar in towards a sniper in the backline to be able to put the pressure on, but Eevee very vulnerable in soar unless you're juking. If you're juking, you're reducing the distance which you're traveling, so it's a bit of risk, a bit of reward. Double-edged sword there for Eevee to get up close and personal to Kinessa, and we've seen how good Abyss's Kinessa actually is, especially if Headhunter is available. Ooh, gone it.
Oh, it's so dangerous. You hear that, I have you in my sights, and everyone's just like, uh-oh. Especially if you're low health pool, everyone's like, let me find the nearest corner. You just don't want to have that line of sight there because she can literally melt down characters in 1 to 2 shots. Very, very devastating power. One of the biggest really flexing ults that we have in the game right now.
Yeah, speaking of flexing, though, one champion we haven't seen a great deal of played today so far, favored heavily by District 69 in online play, although they didn't elect to use it yesterday, has been Buck. Not picked up and utilized the best of their ability earlier today. Could be a potential option instead of Eevee if Eevee is drafted to play a counter Kinessa. Do you expect the flexing monster themselves, the muscle man, to come back in?
The interesting thing about Buck is this. He has a self-sustain and cauterize, which is really, really strong as far as his ability to be isolated and be on his own without his team having to worry about him extensively. The other thing about it is if he can get his ultimate up, we haven't really talked about what Buck Wild really does. You know, if you exchange your clip, you use all your cooldowns, you pop Buck Wild, you get your full clip back and all of your cooldowns. So it's essentially, and bonus damage. That's really the big one. I don't know how I misguided on that
that's
one.
actually kind of a cooldown reset. Full reload, that's important in itself, just because Buck takes so long to reload, reloading 1 shell at a time into their shotgun, which was changed from that big old shrapnel cannon, which Buck had since day 1 of closed beta a little while ago. And personally, I'm loving the change, especially when paired with some of their cosmetics available in game. You know, Kingpin and Triggerman, they just look so good. But that's beside the point. Bonus damage is where the real fun begins, especially if you consider the fact that it is also accentuated by the bonus damage from net shot as well. You have horrifying KO potential onto a backline squishy.
And not just one, but multiple if you're looking at Buck Wild. You use your cooldowns and your items and all of everything once, use it again, and you still have the mobility and the power to take down multiple characters. And that's where we see successful Bucks are ones that are able to not have to worry about any frontline peel and just kind of dance their way around the back.
I'm going to pull in the shameless self-plug. If you've checked out Paladins' top 5 plays, great. If you haven't, well, you definitely should. Check it out on youtube.com/Paladins Game. there's a few clips and a few settings where we've seen Buck activate Buck Wild, pump out a shot, and because their shells fire a spread of pellets, it's not just one slug of damage, it's a spread of pellets which are then totaled, so you see just one damage number. They can actually potentially apply, say, 700 damage to one champion, 700 damage to another champion if they're standing next to each other. We've seen them blow away 2 players in just one shot multiple times during competitive play. Notably for North America, Avuli a master at doing that from the challenger scene.
Yeah, a lot of players across a lot of the regions that have very good game knowledge and a lot of FPS background seem to prefer to really go towards Buck and try to flex that ability individually to be successful. He's probably one of the characters that on your own you can really change the tide of a game just simply by taking that character. On the other side of things, this is something that's really interesting that we haven't seen today, is someone who also has self-sustain and can put out a lot of damage when you're around certain items that are certain things you can deploy, is Barrack. We haven't seen much Barrack today. We saw a number of it, throughout the EV's Winter Classic and the spreads of it yesterday. It talked to me more about why we're not seeing Barrack played with these 2 juggernauts.
I feel like we're just finding more value from either Ruckus or more damage. That's what it comes down to for me. You don't want to be playing Ruckus with a solo frontliner. You generally want to be pairing them with somebody else. Makoa has set up. Fernando, they're just beefy. They've got a great shield. They have a lot of sustain. Barrack relies on getting set up on an objective and established. And whilst that can pair well with Ruckus, you don't have the same comeback potential that you do with maybe a Fernando advancing in Immortal into Ruckus advanced to Hexafire, which just lays down so much damage. And also Barricade, whilst it is on a shorter cooldown than some of the shielding abilities in game from other frontliners, it is still a little bit paper thin in the face of Wrecker level 3, and with how popular Shaolin has been recently, it's just not that usable.
And on top of that, I think the big key is that Barricade is a stationary shield, while all the other shields in game move with you.
Yes.
Fernando's shield's right in front of you. Makoa has the dome shield that kind of surrounds him. That's really, really important when it comes to not just saving yourself, but also moving around and still having damage mitigation for the rest of your team.
Right, Barrack's Barricade, it's just kind of there. It's one of those things which you want to cycle out, so it's constantly providing you with a shield, whereas Fernando's shield will often come up reflexively, as will Makoa's shell shield, specifically that one from Makoa, not often activated just at the beginning of a fight, because they want to be able to get a dredge anchor off. It's very situational, used for peel, used for defense, rather than just providing a constant bulwark from which to hide behind. But Barrack still does bring a lot to a team fight. When those turrets start swinging, they will deal consistent damage, augmenting Barrack's weapon attacks. And let's talk about Dome Shield as well for your objective secure.
Yeah, Dome Shield, it's really interesting simply because it has a huge health pool to it, the 20,000, and then obviously it zones out because that flame turret that's in the middle is a really, really good crowd control as far as spreading, not necessarily slowing or doing any kind of a hurt, but controlling the crowd because everyone wants to get away from it. That's really, really big when it comes to breaking points that are sat on and really committing yourself to rocket bootsing in and then deploying. And it really allows outside flankers the opportunity to find isolated kills.
It certainly does. I love rocket bootsing being a verb, by the way. That's absolutely fantastic.
It's
also
in the dictionary.
Great for conversions. Yeah, you can check that out on dictionary.com, I'm sure. But it's also great for conversions. You plant it between the payload and the conversion point, and then what enemies are going to stand close to contest? They have to get around behind the payload unless they're going to take a lot of flamethrower turret damage, therefore meaning that they have to take a longer path. If you combo that with Dread Serpent for the fear, which sends all enemies running away from the epicenter of that detonation, it's a very, very easy push through, which can be a game-winning play.
Yeah, it has a lot of pros to it, but again, I think the negative is simply in the fact that it is, again, a stationary shield. And you can still find your way around and find fights, and you can still, as the team that's facing up against that dome shield, find a way to still be impactful and find kills and damage, or even finding a different way to position yourself to be more successful once it drops.
Now, you mentioned Barrack, who we haven't seen a great deal of at all. Let's talk about a champion which we have seen played 0 times at all this tournament, who was very popular throughout online play until recent nerfs to their card Healing Rain. It is, of course, the Blue Orc themselves, Grok, and they've been missing and absent entirely from this tournament.
It's interesting because we were seeing Grok be used in the fall circuit a handful of times with European teams, which was really interesting, watching things and watching the opinions of North American players on Grok, and then not seeing him be played at all, literally at all in North America. So Grok is interesting because his healing totem, again, provides an on-the-ground AoE similar to what you would get from Gord, or similar to what you would get from a Blossom as far as that AoE heal. On top of that, Grox just doesn't bring a lot else to the table. You know, the Ghost Walk is great because he's untargetable. He can get out of situations without having to worry. He can actually dodge a lot of ultimates, something like how Slither does with Maldamba. But the big thing is that his ultimate, it used to bring a lot more damage, and just the mobility increase with the kind of, you know, the healing over time just isn't as great as some of the other characters.
Right, and that totem has a lot of weaknesses too. When you drop that on the ground, it is a deployable, it can be killed, and if you kill the totem, you do take away the healing. But let's not beat around the bush. Let's see what the teams will elect to go into as we do bring you back to the draft screen for game number 3 of Abyss versus Burrito. Abyss first picking Fernando again. I'm sensing a bit of a pattern here. Call me insane, but this is... I've seen this before. I'm getting deja vu.
Yeah, you're definitely not insane, the membrane. But Fernando's been very, very strong with Abyss. They've utilized him so very well, especially, again, with that dynamic they bring with having Fernando Ruckus. And interestingly enough, Burrito actually opts to go for Makoa Shaolin, maybe possibly setting up the fact that Shaolin, if they are going to go double frontline with the Ruckus, Shaolin really does kind of help make that choice more difficult because he brings so much damage to tanks.
Let's make things interesting. How we're not seeing a pip on the draft menu. It is Eevee locked in for Abyss Esports and Cassie as well. This opens up so many possibilities. We're going to see joshkent likely on Eevee again, but the possibility of a Kinessa without that backline assassination. Burrito, they're going to draft Kinessa straight away to prevent that from going through to Abyss. Maldamba to getting that all-important healer for spunkki. It's a good choice here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Burrito pick it up. Bonkar, we would anticipate is going to play that Kinessa. He's out of this world playing Kinessa. He's done such a great job. But on top of that, Laizy plays a good one. I mean, there's so many options across the board for Burrito as far as being able to pick up that character. Oh my goodness, is there any chance we actually see a Grover plus a Skye here?
The
One of the
Skye
two.
pick seems like a wild card. We saw them yesterday.
No,
it's
not
going to be
quite.
Buck, though. Maybe Abyss were listening to us. They're going to take the flanker to get into the backline and deal with Kinessa here.
I love this combination of Grover Buck because Grover can focus on just healing the front line because of that self-sustain. And interesting, we see the Barrack come back out as well. This is going to be really, really interesting from a dynamic of what the fights are going to look like. We're going to have a lot of cluster between 3 or maybe 2 or 3 different big bodies on the point, and there's going to be a lot of interaction on the outside with the Buck being on the board. And of course, Kinessa being planted up.
It's double shotgun. I love it.
Yeah.
How can you not love double shotgun? Although Black Barrack a little bit more easily able to reload there. Not forcing one shell in, one by one. So it's double frontline, no Ruckus.
Yeah, this is one of the only times we've seen Ruckus not be picked. And it's interesting to think about what Burrito's mindset is as far as the potential to combine ultimates together on the point, but also the big thing about Barrack that we have to keep in mind, we did say that his shield is stationary, but the alleyway that the payload will have to move is also very narrow. So that shield's going to take up a lot of that area from left to right and will actually provide a decent amount of cover.
Notably, a big lack of big AoE damage coming through. Eevee and Fernando are going to be dealing out some of that from Abyss. No Drogus, however, who is a great counter to Barrack with Fire Spit, dealing good damage to the Barrack turrets. And on Frozen Guard, we're going to see those placed around corners where they can't be targeted and ready to apply Barrack's shotgun mark to their opponents. But we're into game number 3. Abyss on the left, Burrito on the right. Bonkar will be this time on Shaolin. It's Laizy who picks up Kinessa, so be prepared for some motion sickness.
Absolutely. And you also have Thiel and Makoa. spunkki will be playing Maldamba, and Bird will be picking up Barrack.
Their opponents, the team in blue, the wildcard team, going full Haven, are Alston on Buck, Joelz on Grover, Kronicx on Cassie, joshkent on Eevee, and Haydz will be on Fernando. Initial point fight will break out. Straight to the objective is the team in blue.
Yeah, and I heard your little pause. You're thinking, wait, why is Alston on Buck and not on Grover? You'd think that Joelz would be there, but it doesn't make a difference as joshkent shows up first. The Aussies getting on board early, even though point is still favoring Burrito, but it is now in control. You see Eevee actually opting to go straight up the middle and look for damage on the Kinessa, able to find it a big pick.
Laizy sleeping on the Eevee player here, gets a taste of their own medicine as joshkent picks up a double kill, is looking for the triple, but it retreats. Wormhole's back, does not overextend, and stays alive to come back and try and put the pressure onto Barrack.
Very, very smart as well. Seeing the Barrack mounted up, knowing that he needed to come back and keep that zone away. 84, 87%. This might go for Abyss early on. Again, joshkent is how he set that one up, and there it is. Rather uncontested. A nice little clipping to save for the moment was Abyss. 1-0 at the moment.
And Abyss are about to try and pursue their initial momentum, their initial advantages. Oh my goodness, the bonus damage axe throw comes through from Joelz on Grover.
Absolutely huge numbers being popped out from both. The combo from Kronicx, and again, you mentioned it, Grover from downtown able to put out a massive amount of burst damage. And again, the Makoa falling very low. Unfortunately, the Buck was kind of trapped in that little area, not able to jump around much in there.
It feels like there's more of a sniper than support on the side of Abyss Esports, because this Grover is sitting in the backline, pummeling out axes down long lines of sight, which we have so much of on Frozen Guard, and it's just locking off every angle available. Laizy is crippled. They can't transport her away. They're so low, almost finished off, but staying alive. Kronicx, though, is in the backline. No, shut down by Laizy, the sniper, the bounty hunter, who is trying to make a stand, but they cannot withstand Buck.
This is why I like Grover right here. In fact, Alston to get a double kill right now as well. He's moving through and actually keeping everyone pushed up, but the Grover's doing so well simply because he's one character that can handle and essentially contest with both big snipers in Shaolin and Knessa.
They certainly are. Alston was dredged into danger, but is back into the fray. Recovery is active to keep them at full HP, and Kronicx resumes as well. Blast shot applied to everybody. Anti-heal is there. Keeping everybody alive is Joelz on Grover. Damage is rolling through. Dredged down on low. Burrito Esports getting taken out one by one. joshkent finds a double kill. joshkent looking for the triple kill, but Haydz steals it away with a double of their own. Abyss Esports take a conversion for a 2-0 lead.
This is the dynamic that you get from having, again, big damage from deep, whether it's coming from the Cassie or, of course, Grover, but Haydz is moving all around that area and getting so much damage done as well. Net worth, so much, not just all 5 players, but actually a pretty big difference, more than about 200 between the lowest on Abyss and the highest on Burrito.
There's a Grover at the top of the damage charts.
I love it.
It's 20K. I love it. It's lunacy. I have no excuse not to get them to at least diamond and rank now.
The thing about it is, again, they're utilizing him like he's a sniper champion. The heals are there when they need him. He'll vine in and get the burst heal, then sit right back in again, throw with his axes. He's hurling them from downtown. I feel like I'm playing NBA Jam. I want the announcer in my ear saying, from downtown, because it's just absolutely nuts. And everything now still moving very strong for Abyss. They're up 2-0, and again, that itemization is going to be huge for them in this next fight.
joshkent going to try and kick things off, though. Haydz down his right to the back line as Kronicx takes out bonkar. Now joshkent onto the Knessa, gets 2 shots off and gets the KO. Damage comes down. Kronicx into the back line as well. It's a pincer combo that nobody can ignore. And almost a full house wipe. Double on Haydz to finish. Burrito swept aside.
And this is the momentum they have to keep up if you're Abyss. Grover is strong right now. He's on a 12 streak. Give me a break. He's absolutely untouched. And while that heal is still not being mitigated by Cauterize, they're going to have so much early pressure to get in and really sacrifice their health bar because Blossom's going to do so much.
For the second time in a row, however, Abyss Esports have captured the objective here on Frozen Guard, and with the Winter Witch in their lineup, they're going to make like Eevee and snowball their way to victory unless Burrito Esports can formulate a successful defense.
Yeah, joshkent again has Ice Storm available to him, and that's going to be huge in this middle engagement as far as where they're able to kind of get a centralized focus on any of the core frontline from Burrito. Again, Barrick not having the best game in the world, but neither is Thiel on the Makoa. If they can keep that up and keep them tilted, it's going to be great.
joshkent, though, is shut down by Thiel, and this does provide a little bit of a respite for Burrito, but not so for so much longer as Kronicx is in the backline. Kronicx starts rolling around everywhere, trying to find a shutdown onto spunkki, but Joelz has already eliminated them. Bird responds onto Kronicx, but still, it's all about the blue team. Joelz on Grover still hasn't died. Whirlwind is available, and still the payload advances forwards.
And no one's put anything on Joelz. Everyone's so focused on this Buck and Eevee that Joelz is just sitting here holding left click and essentially reclining himself and just tossing axes left and right. Everything is being camped in spawn. Dread Serpent just come out to disengage, though. Grover will fall. A big pickup there, but still, the blue side for Abyss is right here with them. Ancient Rage is popped to try to help again keep this defense stabilized. Fernando's pulled, but a double kill for Abyss so far.
Out comes the Dome Shield as well from Barrick as Bird cleans up Eevee. Looking for Laizy to find the shots and find the damage onto anybody, but they get shut down. Kronicx will fall to Thiel, however. The respawn proximity in Burrito's advantage. They have to hold here. They must hold, and bonkar is their saving grace on Shaolin, closing out a double kill and buying them room to breathe.
More than 45 seconds still left, though, Fox. There's so much time for Abyss to get this engagement, and they still have 2 ultimates on board. Scout would actually be very useful to see where exactly Burrito's going to set up, and of course, they're still going to have Whirlwind, which is going to be very massive, while Cauterize is still not quite all the way there for Burrito.
And as you said it, with Cauterize coming online later into the game, It's important for Abyss to try and get a 4-0 conversion. They don't want their Groza to lose efficiency, but they won't lose efficiency on damage. Hold that thought, though. Speaking of damage, joshkent is looking for blood.
Yeah, and that was the use of the scout. Whirlwind being used here. Spring is come, and it's right here, right on top of the point. There's nothing really on the board right now for Burrito. It's going to come down to frags, and joshkent is in the backline being unchecked.
joshkent picks up one, tries to find two. No, Haydz will clean up Thiel, the frontliner for Burrito, burning them alive with their flame lance, making turtle soup. Joelz gets a heal off and keeps the team alive as they take out spunkki, but the respawn proximity is too good for Burrito Esports. Slowly but surely, they are establishing a front line. The double turrets coming into play. The respawns are too far. Will Abyss be able to push through? I don't think it's looking likely.
No, not the case. Although Haydz did a really good job of keeping his frontliner alive, keeping the front line alive, while Joelz was there kind of sitting around the corner, letting that 20 tick per second start to get that health pool back in there, and the burst heal was huge, just was not enough. Too much distance to travel for Abyss.
Absolutely, and you can see that Abyss is starting to make up for that. 2 master ridings itemized into by joshkent and Haydz, giving them faster mount speed. Damage dealt. Oh my goodness, it's Game Grover. Show me that in Twitch chat. 44K, topping the charts. Joelz, best sniper confirmed. Knessa, get out of here.
And still the healing on top of that, that's just so strong as far as what this character can do early. And actually, that's probably why they're saying, hey, Joelz, you play this damage dealer more often than not. Can you just go ahead and use this support character as, you know, our carry? He says, sure, sounds good.
Yeah, that works. And also, I love that everybody from Abyss plays into Grover's playstyle. They blink out, they blink back into healing range. It's great, but joshkent sniped out early, and this allows Laizy to have a bit of breathing room to get some damage off. But still, if spunkki falls, it's a bad look for the red team. Kronicx is going on an unstoppable rampage, but no shutdown after they were impaled into a wall.
But still, Haydz and Alston are still up there. You can see them very far as the little aurora they have on their stuff. And Dome Shield's actually baited out. That's really huge as far as what point control is going to look like. It's 3-1. If Abyss can grab this point, it's over.
Burrito Esports, I'm disappointed. That was very much an NA ult, not the EU ult, which we're used to seeing. The damage coming over range from Joelz is massive, 75%. Abyss about to take a lead. Thiel will shell spin in. Headhunter is activated. Can Laizy find the kills they need? Whirlwind provides some shielding, some mitigation just on the forefront with all of that healing. This is do or die for Burrito, but it's still all about Abyss.
Picks left and right, and with 96%, they have to force everything on the point, does Burrito, but they get cleaned up. You see overtime on the board, but it's not going to make a difference. Nobody nearby, and Abyss will walk away 4-1 on Frozen Guard.
Overtime, Grover time, Game Grovers all around. Look at their faces here, grinning and just happy with a victory. And Burrito Esports are left rolling their heads, rolling their eyes, stumped.
I'm not sure if that's the serpent surrender pose there from Thiel, but he's got the hands up behind his head, and it's not looking great. It's almost baffled confusion of how much impact Abyss is able to let Grover and Knessa do. This is unbelievable.
They're growing on me.
No.
They're really growing on me. Grover is growing within the scene magnificently. Bring the vine, bring the axe, bring the crippling throw, bring the heals, and let's take a look at the damage charts. Oh my goodness, 55,000. Grover is back, baby, and they've never left in our hearts.
Just tears of joy coming from Pretty Hair right now, I'm sure. Just absolutely 21-2. It's an incredible stat line. Alston, though, we need to talk about this Buck because we have seen Buck try to be used a number of times throughout this tournament, and no one's really done it to the effect that Alston just did. And the keys of why is because, again, there is damage coming from literally everywhere. Kronicx was dodge rolling like a madman. Joelz was throwing axes the size of essentially Knessa's body type. And then on top of that, Alston jumps in and puts out so much sustained damage right in that backline. The pressure was incredible.
The double flank combo, so important. And it just felt like as well, this is quite interesting. We saw Buck utilize in the first setup with Eager, trying to capitalize on killing a Knessa, killing a Xiaolin. Xiaolin being a very, very good counter to Buck diving in. bonkar just didn't have the same impact that Abyss did with a Xiaolin of their own.
And I think a lot of that comes down to you hear the planet get triggered, and Joelz just goes straight to, all right, I'm just going to throw axes at you while you're not moving.
So it is currently 2-1 up for Abyss versus Burrito. Burrito staring into the Abyss, and the Abyss is looking back. Map number 4 coming up on your screens. The draft is ready. It's Jaguar Falls.
And I kind of expected this. The other map that's left available would be Fish Market, and that's one of those that we usually always see survives until map 5. No one really seems that it's, you know, we don't really need to ban it, but we also don't really want to play
Honestly,
it.
nobody wants to deal with Bomb King's Poppy Bomb, which is Jolt.
Or Makoa's Hook.
Yeah, no, nobody likes going swimming. I love going swimming. Apparently the champions don't, including the turtle.
Well, yeah, that's for absolutely sure.
I mean, he's a big body. He's too heavy. He just sinks.
There's not much buoyancy in that shell, let me tell you.
Okay.
So Jaguar Falls, as we get back in here, again, this is an interesting dynamic. It's actually very opposite of what we saw from Frozen Guard, simply because it's a lot more narrow. Yes, there's still flanking options, similar to what you would see on Serpent Beach, but those areas are a lot tighter and a lot longer. So we're going to see a very interesting play. We usually see high mobility champions be chose here, just simply because it can close that distance and you can really get that extra push if you need it, or just the disengage if you want it.
We certainly won't be seeing Kinessa again, at least if our previous experience is to boot. But Abyss, they've been nothing but full of surprises so far, and they're looking to bring that back out in Game 4. Now, again, we didn't see Ruckus last game. It's been a staple for Abyss in the first 2 maps. Is that something which you expect to see utilized here on Jaguar Falls?
I have a hard time saying no, but at the same point, you really can't say for sure, just simply because there's so many different compositional choices as far as the full 5-man going into this, that you could do either, you could hit the pros, you know, of that, or at the same point, you might be able to find something else that really counters out what your enemy's taking as far as their champion draft goes.
And one strong counter to Ruckus, which we haven't seen at all so far today, is Bomb King. Grumpy Bomb on Jaguar Falls is a fantastic zoning tool because the amount of potential damage that comes from the AoE stun setup, as well as Poppy Bomb blasting people off the point, because Jaguar Falls is kind of inclined to make teams stack all into one area. Do you expect the Monarchy to reign supreme again on this map?
He's such a niche pick. You know, it's one of those things that he provides a lot of great zoning. You know, the Grumpy Bomb plus the Poppy Bomb plus the simple fact that you're able to convert off of other players' crowd control or their stuns themselves is really, really impactful. But the big thing about it is we just do not see the numbers as far as damage. And if, you know, both of these teams, they do like to kind of hit more directly and not go for as much of this initiation zoning that we would see from a Bomb King or even a Drogos. We haven't seen Drogos be played yet, which both of those characters kind of bring. And that's why I don't think we'll see Bomb King, but still a very viable option on Jaguar Falls because, again, those tight areas makes Grumpy Bomb that much harder to dodge.
I would certainly consider so, and I would certainly hope that we're going to see some flavor picks coming out. I mean, it's game number 4. Burrito, they're going to get shut down by Abyss if they don't pull out a win and force a game 5. Abyss, they're going to be going in strong. They want to take down the online giant, the juggernaut that has not dropped a single set since the DreamHack Founders Tournament back last summer. My goodness, that would be a way to set the stage for the rest of this tournament.
I mean, you can, those of you who are on Twitch and not able to see the crowd right now, the section that's cheering for Abyss has just grown exponentially as this game has gone on. And again, they are just, they're the dark horses coming into this. We weren't sure what they were going to bring internationally simply because they've been so dominant in OCE, but no one else really seemed to show up as far as being able to compete against them. Burrito, on the other hand, we've seen a lot of, and we see what they're able to bring, and we see how strong. We see them making changes as far as, hey, by the way, this is a really good item that none of you are using right now, and the whole game changes because of it. Abyss is kind of that outside the box looking in and saying, we don't need to do that. We can find something that works for us that nobody seems to think is okay.
They can easily observe the highly publicized tactics and adjust them and provide counter strategies and counter picks. And, you know, I've been watching some of the Oceanic EVs Winter Classic, and I was watching as much as possible because it was on a Monday for me. I'd wake up, hit it up, the stream is there. It's Let's Go Paladins first thing in the morning. It's a bit of a dream come true, and thank you for the time zone differences coming into play. But looking at Abyss, very strong in every set. They were taking 4-0 sweeps, and they were running sort of an NA-EU meta. However, one thing which I think was very important is that they were playing against a lot of Kinessa, against a lot of Grover, and I just dismissed this as, okay, this is very strange, this isn't going to work. Maybe there's a lot more truth to that than we initially expected.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I remember watching the first ever Oceanic tournament, we saw a lot of Grover, and no one else was even touching him at that point.
Was it Aggression Grover?
It was. There was one match.
Was it Deft Hands Grover?
There was actually one match where there was an Aggression Grover.
Oh my goodness.
If I remember correctly.
My heart be still.
But, you know, regardless, they think about the champion pool as far as what does every champion have that they can bring to the table. Whereas usually with the North American and EU that we've highlighted so often over the last 6 months, it's like maybe this character gets a buff in the patch notes. It's like, let's try them out. Okay, yeah, they are viable. That's not the case for a lot of these international scenes. They like to try things that are different and just try to figure out ways to make characters that we might not think from watching is, oh, well, they're not played very often, they're just not good. They don't take that approach. They find some way to make it work.
And they certainly have demonstrated that. The versatility, the adaptability of this Abyss Esports Oceanic team. And a good look then, the teams which have been able to go toe-to-toe with them in their region during some of these recent tournaments. Teams like Avant-Garde, teams like Kings as well, who are giving them at times a bit of a run for their money, showing some dependability and a great look for this for that region's growth as we go through into the future. But we are here, the draft is ready. Jaguar Falls sets the scene for game number 4. Will Burrito rise or fall? And they do have first pick going into this game.
This is huge. They get to establish themselves as far as their drafting is. What do we want to have available? And again, we see a lot of either Makoa or Fernando picked immediately. I don't know if that's more so because no one wants to face up against this 2 and the 3 overall pick being Makoa Fernando, but Thiel is so great on Makoa. He hits hooks left and right, and it's a really solid pick to kind of build your team off of depending on what Abyss choose, which is Fernando Shaolin.
On the other hand, Haydz is very good on Fernando, and I'm starting to reach the point where I'm wondering if it would have been more wise for Burrito to take that away from Haydz, put it on something they haven't played a great deal of. But Burrito, here we go, Eevee locked in. That is necessary to the team comp, and don't give it to joshkent, they say, as well as Ruckus. Might be seeing the trifecta come out here. Abyss, will they stick with Grover? Will they strip the Maldamba away?
I don't know if we'll see Grover here simply because, again, he relies on distance. Are they going to make us eat us words with the Kroc? It could be spicy. It could be it goes back to Maldamba pulling on the heartstrings here. That would have been epic if they would have had some closet Grover or Grok build that would have just absolutely ran the table, but not today.
Unfortunately not. Cassie picked up as well as relatively a staple champion. Not much area damage outside of Fernando in Abyss's draft so far. Eevee providing that for the Burrito squad. Ying and Androxus hovered, looking like they're going to be locked for Burrito, and falling back on Androxus could be a good look for the squad playing out of the left-hand side. This time they were very, very dominant with it on Bird in the initial game in this set.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to have the Eevee and Androxus because they bring a lot of pressure to the flanks in different ways. You know, the AoE damage and the direct damage. So it is going to be Grover again. You know, double. This is double support. But again, Grover has the ability to put out massive amounts of damage. The real question is he going to be allowed to have those lines of sight that get him that bonus damage?
I think it could potentially be a good pickup here. You're going to be often not fighting on the objective, sort of looking at the objective with the Ruckus Makoa there, just swinging axes from range. And if Eevee comes in, you have that crippling throw. It's potentially a good pickup, but double support is risky. There's a lack of either shielding or damage from the side of Abyss, and they've got to compensate for that.
The other thing that would need to be is not just damage, but where that damage is focused. These are all single target characters. Nobody on the table, with the exception of Maldamba, has an offensive ability to get multiple characters involved.
Fernando's Flame Lance can do a bit of that, but if Fernando is up in your face in the backline, then you're doing something wrong, and Burrito is certainly not going to be letting that happen.
Yeah, it's not to the same effect of an Ice Storm, a Hexafire, and a Cursed Arm. Those are big area damage, and honestly, just based on the fact that when it comes to big team fights, I have to say Burrito has the advantage going into this, unless Abyss can find a way to single target focus and pick.
The path to victory does start in the drafting phase, but ultimately it does come down to your players. So in game number 4, let's introduce them to you once again for the 4th time. Thiel for Burrito is on Makoa, bonkar on Androxus, going bonkers, spunkki on Ying, Bird on Ruckus, and Laizy on Kinessa.
And trying to close things out, Eevee, almost the same. Trying to close things out for Abyss will be Alston playing Maldamba, Kronicx on Shaolin, Joelz again on the Grover, joshkent on Cassie, Haydz going to be locking down the Fernando, and you can see they're not going for that central focus. They're trying to find picks off early as Abyss.
Very wise as Thiel shell spins in, pulls in Fernando, but is impaled into a wall, very low on HP, barely surviving. No, joshkent on Cassie, dodge rolls in, dodge rolls out, but is punished by Laizy, and now bonkar is here to play.
Yeah, bonkar's going to feed up all this. Look at that, actually surviving as the tank to Ruckus there with that reversal, but not enough, as again, Joelz is being allowed to sit closer towards the back and throw out axes left and right, but no, a nice double kill from bonkar, looking for a third, going to chase down the Fernando, a hook will pull him in, and bonkar with a delayed triple kill.
Absolutely bonkers on this Androxus. This is why you want him to play it in your ranked games back home in Europe. up, ladies and gentlemen. Holding it down for Burrito, but it's all about Thiel with the setup. Dredge anchor plays. Now holding the front line will be bonkar to a degree with reversal in hand. One last opportunity for Abyss to get back on the objective.
Oh, and Thiel says, no, get away from there. Sprint denied, and a lot of health and shield being poked out because of it. And now overtime is there since Fernando's there. But again, you can see Burrito's like, fine, you can sit on point. We're going to go pick at your back line. And that's exactly what happens as Alston falls. The support down. Haydz falling because he's separated. And now Kronicx as well. Burrito gets the first capture this game.
Divide and conquer is the name of the game for the Burrito esports squad. And they let the Fernando through in order to capitalize on the confusion. Now bonkar is never stepping upwards. A Cursed Arm is ready. Gonna wait to use it for the right opportunity, however, as the payload is still very far away from conversion.
Very far away, but the big combo is in hand right now, as bonkar has his Cursed Arm, but also Laizy has his Ice Storm, and if they find an opportunity, you better believe they're going to use those ults.
Especially valuable before Haydz gets Immortal up, but that is now ready, and that will be the saving grace of Abyss Esports if they elect to use it to try and survive the incoming pressure. Cassie so low, not dredged into danger, but no, it's going to be Joelz that kicks things off. Whirlwind mitigating all the damage with healing coming through onto Abyss, and they do hold whilst Burrito will retreat.
That Whirlwind was essentially just used to keep Cassie alive, and it was absolutely worth it, because if Cassie falls, a lot of damage gets pulled off the board, and now you can see what this is leading to. Haydz is able to get right back up there. There's a lot of headshots being ticked away, and now Haydz has to get right back out.
Right there, so much damage coming through from Ruckus. About to fall on two. bonkar picks up a double kill. Hexafire is tearing through. Bird cleans up joshkent, and Thiel takes out Kronicx. It's looking like it's already Grover for the Grover here, as Laizy has their number. Go back to base. You are rooted with fear, and only a few more meters to push before conversion. Already so low is Haydz.
Yeah, and that's not a mistake, because they have to contest. It's still just now under a minute, and the payload is starting to get onto the point. But bonkar with a double kill. Make that another triple kill. Bonkar going nuts on Androxus. Holy smokes.
Okay, I was expecting Bird on Androxus. I forgot about bonkar. I'm sorry there, bonkar. And let's take a look at the stats and net worth charts coming out through, as Burrito with a 2-0 victory are pulling very far ahead and about to get some items online for round 2.
30,000 damage in just under 4 minutes. It's at 4:15 now, but that's with this whole pre-setup time. That's a lot of damage. Almost 10,000 a minute. Hello?
They shoot good. Point and click. It's Androxus, all aim, no brain.
Well, and it is all aim coming from him. He's hitting so many great headshots to convert. You can see flashing near the top left, all of those kill streaks. That again goes down to Spunkki, who we haven't talked a lot about, is keeping everybody alive. He was topping the healing charts. And again, Burrito looking to come back strong. They're already up 2-0. It's a good, favorable spot. They could be aggressive here as they look to get in the back line. All
streaks, but no ultimates online. So if Burrito fall here, it will give Abyss the advantage, since they'll get a lot more in the way of ultimate charge. Thiel will be reacting to the Impaler arrow, keeping Ruckus alive with the damage mitigation from their shield. Comes in, misses the dredge anchor. This could be huge, but Ancient Rage is ready in the corner.
Oh, but the Dread Serpent comes up, but no, he's able to get it off still. So Thiel's able to stay back alive and gets the pull on the Meldama, able to get that kill. Shaolin and triple a double from the Ancient Rage. The Turtle going crazy, and Fernando is now in the sights. Still, 50% was captured for Abyss, and in the face of that, that's really well done.
Oh, just no resilience, but still so resilient is Thiel, now chasing after kills with bonkar, looking for the shutdown play on the Haydz. And we see Burrito Esports go for the equalizer, start to overtake Abyss on the objective capture. I can't believe that Thiel managed to stay alive.
That was just really clutch timing. He was down to just a little bit under 2 tick bars as far as his health pool goes. He was stunned out, or feared out rather, by the Dread Serpent, but still the effects wore off just in time for him to pop that survivability. Extra 10,000 health. The Illusionary Rip coming out now to help keep Burrito sustained, and that's doing very well, as now another double kill for Thiel. He's stepping up, saying, I'll take control.
And it's just Fernando left contesting for the time being. The Flame Lance comes out, but Bird is happy to chew through their health pool as well. But Thiel picks up the 3rd kill in a row at the end of that engagement. Burrito get a second cap, 3-0. They are looking fierce here. They're done playing.
It's not playtime anymore with Grover. This is exactly the draft I think they wanted going into this map, and they are flexing it really, really well. Laizy's been doing a really good job. We haven't really been on board with him all that often, but the pressure he's put down on the Grover specifically has been really big, keeping those axes away from his team.
And I feel this is really important because getting up close and personal, forcing the lack of bonus damage to come through on Grover's axe throws prevents them from being, as you said, focused down the long lines of sight on the angles on Jaguar Falls, which he can potentially lock off with some spam throws. Laizy being very tricky here. Their blink and blink back is ready with Ice Storm to set up a massive play.
Oh, I thought for a second he might have thought about doing that. 3 players were combined, but again, you can see just through that left wall, none of his teammates would have been able to convert, so really good discipline there. bonkar now actually taking the reins as he's able to get out joshkent, so again, that damage from joshkent is completely gone for at least the next couple of seconds. 5 more until he's alive. Thiel getting more pulls and picks. This is looking very good for Burrito right underneath the bridge, and Hexafire.
Bird is ripping through, but no, he's mitigated by a wall there. Nice use of just the environment for Abyss to try and sustain through that damage, to try and prevent themselves from being hit by that damage, but ultimately it does not matter. Laizy will clean up joshkent for a double kill, killing spree, looking for the Fernando dismount in the backline, trying to find the Shaolin as well. 3 in a row for Laizy. Will they find 4? Fernando, the last bastion of defense, waiting on respawns. Immortal will buy them valuable time here.
And the Gord on top of that to help keep him alive, but still Laizy's completely off on the side doing whatever he wants. The whirlwind coming out, but nobody left to heal. It's just Grover left as bonkar's able to take out one more. And again, now Bird getting on the kill feed. 40 seconds left still, and it's all Burrito, and they will pull it. A nice 4-0 for them.
That was fast. Wow.
Very fast.
Burrito flexing, showing their muscles, showing the team that we knew from online play and what we expected to turn up this tournament. They figured out what went wrong last game, and they have definitely fixed it.
That's a huge game for Burrito, and just simply because the fact that not only was it a must-win for them, but the fact of the matter is they got to play a comp that they're very comfortable with, and they were able to reestablish themselves. Their feet are right now under them going into what will be Fish Market, and it's not really the worst thing in the world for Abyss, because if they're trying to pull something crazy out to see if it works, they still have a best of 1 now coming up in this last game.
Oh my goodness, all that weight on one final game. But before we go there, let's take a look at our scoreboard and see just how one-sided it was in that previous game when Jaguar Falls. Just 10 minutes and 19 seconds, and Burrito still pulling upwards of 50,000 damage on bonkar during that time.
That's incredible, and he hasn't really had a chance to play Androxus, not in this set, and you would think maybe he's a little cold with it. No, not even a little bit. He comes out and absolutely dominates. He's got 31 eliminations. None of those were solo kills. You have to imagine he was part of every single elimination that happened in that game. And on the flip side of things, you can see a very lacking number in eliminations as nobody gets above 7. And again, I think that a lot of that comes down to the fact that there's just too much single target and not enough AoE coming out in any real ability.
And I do feel like the double support did actually end up hurting Abyss as well. Let's take a look at the healing column. 62,000 healing for spunkki, and a combination of 26k for the side of Abyss with 2 supports. Somebody's not putting their weight there.
I mean, regardless, the fact of the matter is the 46k is a lot, but not for 2 supports. And on top of that, 62k in 10 minutes is ridiculous.
But that also means that with 62k in mind, spunkki is allowing their team to stay alive, but who are diving into danger, taking a lot of damage, and then coming back out again and surviving. That's what's important. Burrito are making plays, but it's not beyond their capabilities.
Yeah, not at all. And that just goes to show that spunkki is very well rehearsed when it comes down to playing these support roles and how well he's able to do it. And essentially where he's able, with Ying getting that big of a number, that's not only utilizing your ultimate as much as possible, but you're also keeping your illusions alive for a very long time, which is good placement.
They are not being prioritized, they are not being shut down, and Burrito will not fall on Jaguar Falls. Fish Market will be the map coming up next as we have exhausted our map pool supply. You can see it on your screen now, and here we are. 4-2, 4-3, 4-1, 4-0, getting steadily stronger towards Burrito as Abyss to make a comeback, and now we're looking at the last map. Everything it all comes down to.
And what else is riding on this here, Vox? So Burrito is sitting at 1-0. This is their second map of the day, second match of the day. Abyss is already 2-0. They've essentially secured themselves as semifinals. If Burrito wins here, they have also essentially they've also established and signified their spot in the semifinals. Those words are very difficult sometimes.
They are. You know, we need a dictionary here. I mean, we've already added several today to the dictionary. I mean, Game Grover has got to be in there at this point, but this signifies, as you said, more than just a set win. It will put one team at an advantage going through towards the semifinals. It'll put Abyss at a 3-0, which is remarkable. But not just that, I feel that it's a word of encouragement to the international regions, and that's very important in here. Paladins has had Europe and North America established as the primary scenes for its esports realm. I mean, they were the first regions where we had the game released to, and for an international team to come in, cause upset, and demonstrate that it is possible to dethrone the giants, that is huge.
And on top of that, the other thing that we have to keep in mind with Burrito, if they lose this game, Eager has a shot to come back in and actually beat Burrito and move their way into the semifinals. There's a lot riding on this possibly as far as what Eager might be thinking in the stands, in the audience right now. But on top of that, Burrito, if they lose, will have to now again fight for their lives.
You're not getting there. It all comes down to this game to establish safety for Burrito or complete and total dominance for Abyss. And Fish Market, well, it's not exactly the map option that you really want it to come down to. Let's talk about map dynamics and what this last map will bring to the game.
You know, we see Fish Market so often, not just in this draft, what's been happening as far as everything going on with the Invitational, but also throughout the EV's Winter Classic and the Fall Circuit. Usually Fish Market lasts until the 5th map, and it usually brings a lot of really interesting team fights, simply because, again, it's a kind of a bowl. Everything is it's like an arena. Everything surrounds it up top, and the central point fight is really open. There's not a lot of obstacles, a couple boxes, that's really about it. But on top of that, you have that long line right along the dock that brings so much environmental hazard. But on the flip side, we don't really see it all that often, is all of that underneath the building, that whole dark area, it brings a lot of interesting flanking routes open as far as the initial fights go.
It certainly does. It's a map which isn't really banned out all that often by teams. It's one of those ones where, oh, we'll get round to it later. We will get round to it at some point, and we kind of don't want to actually have to deal with it. We'll win in 3, we'll win in 4. So a lot of teams aren't actually practiced on this map. It is on the Enchanted Forest style, one of the original core 3 maps that this map came through from, and now I think we're ready. I'm not ready personally. I don't think you're ready either. The teams are going to have to be ready as we do enter Champion Draft for the last time in this set. Burrito have first pick. Is it going to be Makoa?
I have a hard time believing it would not be, just simply because Thiel, again, he stepped up. He really got himself onto that argument of I'm the best frontliner in the world, which is something that I don't think we've said yet, but I would put him in the pool for that. And he's been doing so well. Tons of highlights on Makoa. And then to counter that out, again, we actually seen the Fernando, but an Eevee coming out a little bit earlier than what we've seen traditionally over the last day and a half.
She's climbing up the ranks, and this presents Burrito with the opportunity to draft a Xiaolin here, a Ruckus, or a Maldamba, 2 of which, but not all 3. Xiaolin with the first one hovered. Will it be locked? And Ruckus as well, so Maldamba not necessary, but the Xiaolin damage conversion from Makoa's Dread Jacket is so crucial, and their counterplay potential to Eevee.
Yeah, absolutely. And now comes the conversation for Abyss as far as, do we take a healer here, or do we see if we want to grab a couple of really kind of niche picks that will do well against the double front line, and then either go for a Grover or Ying Maldamba, whatever else is left on the board.
Wait, no, that's Eevee, isn't it?
Maybe to your eyes.
You know what? Actually, it's both this time for Abyss, so it doesn't even matter.
You're not going to be wrong.
But Kinessa and Cassie locked in for Abyss so far. Maldamba then given over to Burrito. I feel that this is a bit of a risky play from Abyss, but they've been favoring Grover so heavily. I can easily see it coming out again, but the last one-hit wonder coming through, or definitely not if bonkar has their way with them. And Droxa selected as the final champion to line up Burrito's draft.
And the thing is, Grover's viable here with how Abyss has played him, but also still, of course, Ying is on the table, and that is also a very viable option. I honestly, going into double shield, I was going to say, I expect to see the Grover again. It's been so strong. It's been sitting in their front pocket, and they've been utilizing it. It's like the man card for Abyss. It's the Grover card. I want one of those, by the way.
They've been branching out on their strategies, to say the least.
Yes. Serious Foxes. You've been here for a little too long. But yeah, this is a really good shield break composition for Abyss. Cassie can pick up Wrecker. Kinessa's likely going to pick up Wrecker. Grover also has the option of doing such as well, simply because, again, if they can take down those shields and they can burst down the emitter, then they have the ability with just headshots to take care of Maldamba. They don't necessarily have to take Cauterize because you can just kill him rather safely from a distance.
Also, Grover has the ability to cripple out Maldamba, so they can't use Slither and slither away with their damage immunity frames from all of the potential incoming damage. But here we go into game. Our teams at last are ready.
And in the blue corner, for the last time through, be Thiel on Makoa, bonkar on Andraxis, Bird on Ruckus, spunkki on Maldamba, and Laizy on Shaolin. Give it up for Abyss! Burrito! My goodness.
And of course, finding out on the right-hand side of your spectator UI in the red trunks, this time Alston on Grover, Joelz on Knessa, joshkent on Eevee, Haydz on Fernando, Kronicx on Cassie. Give it up for the Thunder from down under, Abyss Esports.
Things going off on the right side. Interesting, Haydz did not have an item picked up early on. I don't know if there's just waiting to see what comes online, but First Blood does come out to Thiel, but still Burrito actually established themselves on point early with the Ruckus standing right there with the healing from Maldamba, and you get Makoa on the outside, a great peel, and of course Andraxis able to follow up very nicely, 24% in favor of Burrito in the kill field, all blue thus far.
And interestingly enough, and importantly enough, shutting down Joelz early on Knessa is so crucial in this scenario, not allowing her to get off free damage onto everybody sitting on the objective. And speaking of on the objective, Burrito Esports climbing upwards of 72% and rising. Nobody is close enough to contest, but round the backside is Fernando.
Yeah, and Fernando's going to get there just in the nick of time, but again, so much area control coming out of having that gourd down, which will heal and do damage, on top of having the Andraxis, who's able to sit out and find individual fights. He's dueling out with the Cassie. Oh, not in time, though. joshkent comes to help out, but Laizy, in the meantime, picks up a double with the help of Bird finding 3. It's a 4 now for 1, and Burrito look to take this first point rather convincingly.
Overtime ticks down. That is the capture rolling through for the blue team. Burrito Esports get a 1-point lead and are now pushing out to convert on this. Bird will be the one escorting the payload this time, allowing everybody else from Burrito to push forward to zone and buy space for their team, and maybe even pick up a kill, as Grover was stunned out by Impaler Arrow.
Yeah, and this is a dangerous corner for really both characters because the Grover X has a really nice, easy line of sight, but at the same point, for Abyss, it's really hard to get back onto this payload because you have Makoa right there next to the water that has the threat of that environment really, really close. And you can see the payload has been free thus far, and Abyss is going to have to opt to fight directly in front of this lodge area.
That they are buying a little bit of time. The shield is up, Makoa nowhere near the water, so Fernando is safe for the time being, and just buying time as the timer ticks down. 1 minute and 45 seconds left, and this is where Abyss will make that move. Double kill for Joelz so far, as they do look to lock down. Triple kill for Joelz so far, looking with Headhunt to find a quadra kill. Kronicx steals that away, but what an aggressive defense coming out from Abyss here to stabilize this push.
They need to get more aggressive too. You still have well over a minute until this payload goes to overtime. You need to take this high ground, which is exactly what they're doing. You can see Grover up top, hurling axes left and right, and of course as well on top of that, you have Joelz, who's able to lock down either the far left or far right as far as the perspective goes for him.
Meanwhile, we have Laizy on Shaolin going in for a flank, and if you're going to play hide and seek, Shaolin is definitely the champion that I would choose to do that. Maybe a Sky as well, but still nobody's dealing with Joelz on Knessa. They're getting so much damage off around the objective, and whilst the payload does advance, everybody on Burrito is being chipped down low and at great risk of being shut down with a headshot.
A really nice pull, though, on top of that from Bird, getting the kill on Haydz, who has got him out of position. But now the Ancient Rage shares up. Burrito really wants this accursed art use. Joelz shuts that down, and not a lot of value out of either's ultimates. And now Abyss looking to punish.
spunkki dives in with Slither, takes down Alston on the Grover. On the objective is Bird. Hexafire is ready, about to get up onto the payload if they want to break down this Fernando shield, so the damage will be confirmed. It is all coming down to this push for Burrito as they want to convert and get the early lead. Still sitting on the ultimate, still sitting on the damage. Immortal forced out for Fernando, and Hexafire will be used to capitalize on that. 2 champions rip through, but Whirlwind will end up saving Grover.
Oh, but the Headhunter comes back online. Bird completely deleted, and now with having the Grover and the combination of the long range from Knessa, it's going to be hard for Burrito to get back into those big bodies. They're trying to, but again, you can see how much raw damage is coming out of this sniper.
And oh, nope, hold that thought, because Laizy is a sniper in charge now. They take down Joelz, but Haydz and Kronicx are here to hold down the fort. Overtime is ticking, and this is not going Burrito's way as Alston sends straight back to base. spunkki with an axe, Thiel and Bird left standing. Makoa and Ruckus Ruckus, but one by one they fall, and the respawns are just that little bit too far away. Successful defense, 1-1.
It's going to be really interesting to see where the net worth lies. I mean, the kill feeds are essentially even, and that's kind of what I expected. Ruckus was on the point for so long. I had a hard time finding a way from him not being at the top because, again, him sitting on the objective gives so much extra bonus points. But really interesting, Abyss fills out the next 5 spots, which actually gives them a little bit of a team advantage as far as what itemization they can bring to this next fight.
And speaking of itemization, let's take a look at what is available for all of the players. Abyss, they're done with Mild Dumba's healing. 4 cauterized pickups, because look at the amount which has been achieved. 49k already. Spunkki, you're nuts.
Insane. On the flip side, it's where's Grover? Where's the healing there? Not able to get any kind of a blossom, it seems like, much as he's really been essentially negated just by positioning. I mean, the cauterizers really aren't on board yet for Burrito. It's just 3 of them. They're just level 1, so you would think that Grover's healing would be a little bit higher, but I guess that's his choice of opting to play a little further back and not able to keep his frontliner as healthy as I think he'd like.
More of that sniper role is Grover. They're going to have to change that up if they want a victory here. Joelz not finding a single avenue, a single line of sight to dish out any damage as Knessa. Burrito's positioning is impeccable so far, but how long will it last as Cassie dives in looking for a kill?
Whoa, that's unfortunate. Dodge rolled a little bit too far. A lot of that coming out of the elevation, going right into the drink, as you like to say, Vox. But Ice Storm right on point now is where the real focus comes down to. Picks coming out from Thiel. A nice little pull and peel as things are going nicely again for Burrito on the point. This has been the theme so far.
And did you see how much damage Knessa was doing at full charge to Ruckus with repulsor fields?
Oh,
530, only just that little much. I mean, it's so insignificant. It's like barely being tickled, and Emitter will absorb so much of that. You just can't dethrone this mechanical monster from the objective. With Haydz about to fall, it's looking good for the team in blue. Headhunter cancelled out, but a dome shield too. Joelz impaled and wiped out by Laizy, and pulled straight into those googly eyes of doom. Will be Kronicx shut down by the man, the myth, the legend, Thiel.
If Thiel's play wasn't terrifying enough, that's skin choices. Yeah. Absolutely.
I love it.
Alston falls as well to the hook of Thiel, and things again going very nicely for Burrito in this stage of the game when it comes down to late point capture conversions, and of course, as we mentioned, the advantages that Makoa brings to this part of the map when you're pushing the payload.
Losing track of Fernando is Thiel for the time being. Dredge Ankle will miss. Haydz now in shield. Should have really been safe to pull Haydz from behind out of their shield, but still, Burrito just have the damage to break through at this point. They don't mind. They're more focused on dealing with maybe Knessa at the back of the map.
Yeah, on the other side, there's a big slap fight happening on the right side of the map as Thiel actually goes in. He was really low, finds 2 kills. Those are huge, and he's going to have his team really riding. A triple kill coming out for Thiel as they get a quadra kill for Thiel on Makoa of all characters.
He's looking for a pentakill as well, diving straight to the backside. Cassie is low, Dredge into danger, and about to be shut down. One more shot is all he needs. It's delayed, but a penta nonetheless. Thiel going out magnificently as Abyss respawn and make their defense as Hexafire comes out too.
What a brilliant counter, getting that whirlwind off just as Bird was channeling up the Hexafire. Great counter, the Ice Storm as well, reducing all that mobility. But again, Burrito in a great spot right now with over a minute. The payload is right here, and if they go up 3-1, it'd be huge, but the kill feed is all red.
A nice defensive play coming off the back of Kronicx, picking up 2 there as Cassie demonstrating their ability to be hypermobile on this Gary champion, the Hunter's daughter, and keeping their team's hopes and dreams alive. Now it comes down to zoning with only 47 seconds left. Can Abyss hold Burrito at bay?
Yeah, this is actually really interesting to see how Abyss is choosing to play this. They have an ultimate advantage, and I think they know that through comms, knowing who just used theirs, so they can actually let Burrito come into them where they're in an unfavorable position and utilize ultimates if they have to. But with 30 seconds and now an advantage on the left side of the map, I think they're just going to go in.
Yeah, there will be Kronicx diving after Thiel, getting 1 shutdown kill, finding Shaolin, landing successive shots with a dodge roll for the 2nd kill, and then taken out by Bird. Impaler Arrow did set the kill up there with the CC, but still holding it down is Abyss. The defense is impeccable when it really comes down to it.
And they played it, again, really well. You have to give them props for knowing they had an advantage, not only environmentally, but also ultimates. But still, now things are going to get interesting as far as if they choose to use it. Headhunter will be choose to use, going against the Curse Star, but bonkar finds 2, looking for a 30, gets it!
Now he's trying to capitalize from the skies, dropping the damage through, but has been eliminated by Haydz. Up on the objective, up on the payload again, will be Bird on Ruckus, finding the damage, 85% and climbing is Hexafire, getting ready to drop that massive damage through if required. Laizy is looking for Cassie, very low on HP is Bird, and they do fall to Joelz, but dodge rolling away is gonna be Kronicx on Cassie, forced out of the fight. Defense successful though, as Laizy leaves the payload. Misplay coming through from Burrito.
That's the power, though, of elongating the overtime as long as possible. The longer it goes, the shorter it declines once you get off of it. And that was really good awareness for Abyss to just go right at the payload, put a lot of damage into it, and force Burrito away. That's exactly what happened. Even though they ended up sacrificing their lives for it, it was advantage just due to the mechanics of the map.
And also gaining advantages through their itemization now is Abyss sitting on one cauterized 3 on joshkent, so expect that Eevee to be prioritizing Maldamba. Laizy going to be using a planted in base, going to be getting some green fingers going on here just to try and, I don't know, scare the Squandors maybe. On the other side though, it's all about the master rising for Burrito Esports, getting to the point quickly and setting up the kills off of Dredgeank and getting Ruckus established.
And that's really big, you know, especially later as the game goes on. If you do start to find a situation, if we do, for instance, go 3-3, Burrito's going to have an advantage of conga lining, as the, you know, we typically say EU conga line likes to do. But still, things going well off the bat. Again, for joshkent on Eevee, finding another opening kill on this team engagement.
Laizy is being prioritized, pressured out, and will be melted down by Haydz on Fernando as the scoreboard and the kill feed turns red. On the objective was Bird, 48%, almost halfway through, but now Abyss collapse onto the last remaining frontliner alive, take them down, and have the opportunity to equalize, and are looking to zone out again, get their first capture on, and start pushing the payload.
And this is what's really great about this for Abyss. You can see right in front of it, Kinesis got her carbine set up for scope, goes right all the way down towards spawn. Grover was right there, and now actually Rowan coming out to keep the front line available as Eevee was in a really unfavorable spot, and that's really good to make sure your Eevee stays alive. Ice block might not be enough here, though.
No, she's going to get out, and she blinks away to safety. Soar will take Eevee round the corner as well, dropping down, making use of all of that mobility, all that cover onto the objective is Bird, but it's one versus everybody. Joelz picks him off for a double kill. Overtime ticks down. It's Grover time, and bonkar's final kill here as the payload is captured by Abyss is nothing more than a consolation prize as the momentum is building and Abyss are going to start rolling.
This is where dreams are made. Burrito, the #1 favorite team generally by most in the world, have not lost in a long time, facing a very big opportunity to come back. Abyss has the chance to completely override all of those thoughts and show that the Aussies do have the internal power.
And they're going to be looking to camp this corner for a little while, trying to lock off these lines of sight. Damage from axes into shields are very low, just base, but Thiel out of shell shield will be taking a huge amount of poke. Blossom used, Alston cannot heal up the team and must retreat to safety for the time being, but Thiel has massively overextended.
Oh, great shot right there early on in the Androxus. The Nether Step is, though, available, but still a nice another shot. If they can pull out the Androxus. No, that's a really good pick, but still trade back and forth. Things still favoring Burrito, though. It is just Grover and Fernando right here. And again, we've seen the healing has not been great from Alston thus far, and actually a missed Vine puts him in a bad spot for a moment. Haydz, though, fortunately able to get away with his life.
But look at what Haydz is about to do. He's going to run over to Alston, pick up a heal potentially, and run back into the fight. This seems to be what a lot of Abyss are doing. They're running out, they're taking damage, they're running back to their Grover, utilizing that AoE heal by moving themselves to Grover, not relying on their support to follow them around. Scout activated by Cassie, spotting out all enemies is Kronicx, looking for the opportunity to convert on a kill and open up the path for the payload.
I love this from Abyss, though. They're playing so patiently, knowing how much time they have left. They find a pick now on bonkar, who's really, really big, and you see they're starting to follow this up with the aggression. Things are going really nicely as far as positioning for Abyss.
Spunkki gets round the corner, but Headhunter is activated by Joelz. They take out Bird. Nobody is contesting. The frontliners are falling. Your sight fails you as Laizy is in Desert Wind. He's trying to hide around a corner, but look how aggressive Kronicx is diving straight in. Who's contesting?
He's getting the Maldamba out of position too. He's doing this juke, and even though he does fall, there's no healing on the main side of the point, so things could go well for the front line. 25 seconds left. Joelz looking for a kill. Will actually trade out with Laizy. Things now kind of stabilizing, but joshkent is here.
And he's trying to convert on a kill onto somebody, anybody, but bonkar is ready and waiting. Just a frontliner support left for Abyss with 10 seconds to go. It's going to be difficult. Do we have Whirlwind? Not quite. 30% charge is all that's available to Alston. And with no Immortal on the board either, Abyss's path will end here. Fernando shut down. Defense successful. 5 games, 3-3, one last point to end it all.
It doesn't get any better than this.
No.
It absolutely doesn't. And you can see as the stats start to pop up on board how even it is just generally on this map between both compositions. Net worth, essentially even across the board between 6 different characters. Damage a little more one-sided. 103,000 damage so far for the Knessa, again showing how good Joelz is as he plays that character. But as you see it go red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, it's very even there. The only category that we're seeing really weighting in favor of Burrito is that healing category, and that's going to be really big as we get to this last capture point fight.
All comes down to this. 3 seconds to go, and so it begins. Burrito, 2 on the scoreboard, 3 on capture. Abyss 3 and 2 to match. Bonkar sitting on a cursed arm could open up the wound that Abyss has been dragging through with themselves after that first early defeat, but he's poked out very heavily around the corner and must retreat to safety.
Yeah, Bonkar took an axe to the face, taking more as well. Not able to nether step. The crippling was able to hit there, and Josh got a free kill. But on the backside, Knessa in trouble, dancing very nicely, buying some time, but still Thiel wins that fight. Meanwhile, joshkent on a delayed double, and Abyss is right here, numbers right next to the point, and they're going to start getting some capture.
Only 18% now rising, but still Burrito Esports are feeling the heat. Cassie, dodge rolling around, will be looking for an avenue and angle to find some damage onto the opponents. And here we go, Dread Serpent opens the up, chain CC on a Haydz, no Immortal is available. Down goes the frontliner, and Burrito, they're back on the objective.
If you're Abyss, you need to back out, stay alive, don't stagger. You still have the opportunity to get your ultimates off. It's still, no one's capturing for Burrito right now. They finally get on point, but it was sitting at 21% for literally 10 seconds. 45 was what the total was for Abyss, and now they're going to be full numbers. They might be able to get back in here.
Keep an eye on Joelz. They will use Transporter to heal with their restore card. Headhunter is available, trying to make the plays as joshkent as they dive in, drop an ice storm to nobody. Headhunter comes through, but bonkar solo ultimates the sniper as Hexafire comes out as well. It's neck and neck, but spunkki drags their team to victory, and towards it at least as they take out Evie, but Alston is here. No! Too late is the whirlwind, and now shut down is Grover, unable to keep their front line alive. Burrito still hold on to their lead. 84% shift. How's it gonna end?
It's gotta go only one way here. There's really no chance for Abyss to get back on this unless they conga line and find a way to get kills. Evie is there, so the potential is there, but overtime is now on the board. 99%. Joelz trying to get shots, not able to land any big ones though. Shaolin hits that big, and Burrito looks like they're gonna make their way through, and picks keep coming out left and right. It's just Grover left on the point, but no, can't step on. Burrito survives.
Game Grover. 5 game set going all the way. What a series. I am breathless. I am speechless. You too, and so are the players. The elation on all of their faces as we see them reach up, not just shake hands and just go straight in to hug each other because they are so proud of their victory and so happy to have at last found worthy opponents.
My goodness, for both sides, really, Abyss has probably been thirsty for this right now. They have yet to really have any big experience against a big competitor, and why not just go for the best team possibly in the world, as we've seen, at least by track record, over the last handful of months. That's an incredible series, and this isn't even the semifinals or finals. These two teams are going to have a chance to meet up later in the actual tournament part of this.
The way things have been going, it's looking like that might be likely, of course, but that isn't going to be the end of the game today. This is only set number 4.
Oh.
Can you believe it?
We still have 2 more?
It's
Hello?
unbelievable.
This is great.
No, they're on District 69.
Yeah, well.
Either way, for the last time this set, let's take a look at the scoreboard and the stats coming up for Game 5. It was very close, but the stats reflect that status.
Indeed it does, and you can see just generally how even this game was from start to finish. The big man on top for eliminations, the GOAT here, Thiel. Able to get so much work done on Makoa is the real theme. Able to really pull out a nice number for damage too. 62k is really respectable.
It certainly is, but the stat that I want to pay attention to here is spunkki on Maldamba. Despite the cauterized 3, still achieving 148,146 healing. I'm not going to do math on stage because that never ends well, but if you compare that to Alston on Grover, I think the difference is very, very easy to see.
Yeah.
And for me, spunkki was really the player that locked down Burrito, rallied behind them, and kept them alive during this epic, drawn-out battle.
Yeah, and this is going to be really awesome to see as far as what potential both of these teams bring on a variety of different characters. But regardless, we still have more Burrito to watch later on. As we take a look at what's coming up, though, in set number 5, we're going to see the last possible opportunity for Nocturns Gaming to come through and potentially throw a little bit of a wrench in Eager's plans.
That certainly might be the case. We saw Nocturns Gaming face up against Burrito in set 3 today, give them a bit of a run for their money, take some capture objectives away from them, but almost get some payload pushes as well as some great defenses. And based on how Abyss and Burrito have performed now and how Abyss and Eager performed earlier, well, Eager, they've really got to step up unless they want to be shut out and lose the North American pride for their region. Nocturns Gaming looking like they could cause a bit of an upset.
A lot of star potential on Nocturns. We've seen that happen very regularly throughout their matches earlier. As they have the potential to come through with some kind of pocket picks for some of the characters in particular, and they're able to really bring their impact there. And that could be interesting.
And Impact, you know what, Impact, that makes me think of Eevee, and Eevee was certainly a champion, because I'm thinking of the old card for Eevee.
Yep.
It's certainly a champion which caused a bit of a stir for Nocturns early. We'll have to see if they can draft that versus Eager in the next set coming up. For the time being, my goodness, what amazing play. And for those of you watching at home on Twitch, I really do hope you've been enjoying the show. And from us here at Hi-Rez Studios, I want to give a little back to you. Of course, Twitch Prime is our title sponsor for Hi-Rez Expo of 2017. And we have Twitch linking enabled on twitch.tv/Paladins Game Shift. How exactly would you get involved with that?
You just watch.
You just watch?
You just watch. It's that simple.
I get rewards. I get a chance at getting loot drops for just watching.
Yes, you do.
Oh my goodness.
I have nothing else to say but yes. But that's not it, because there's also in-game.
But wait, there's more?
There's more. This is like it's like an infomercial. But wait, if you call in the next 10 minutes, if you get in game anytime in the next while, you can kick up the HRX loot pack, which of course, as you see, has the wonderful Fernando hitting up with that trophy pose, as well as Victor showing off to the crowd. But Ying also has that really wonderful 2017 HRX commemorative skin.
We've got 3 skins, 2 MVP poses, and some sprays to boot. Exclusive and limited in that digital loot pack, available in the in-game store now. Thank you all so much for joining us in this epic battle between Burrito Esports and Abyss. But there is more yet to come. We'll be back with set number 5 for today as Eager take on Nocturns coming up after the break.